Fracassa, the current OVRC chair, and the Cincinnati representative. We're going to do roll call. We do have our secretary here today, Mr. Chris Sabine, and in order to help him out as we go around the room, I'm going to ask everybody to say their OVRC folks to say their first and last name and the area they represent, and then the OD staff, management, their name and job title, and then if we have consultants or operators on the phone, just we'll go by area or something and work all that out. So I'm going to go to my right, and we'll start there.
Hey, I'm Annette Lutz. I'm vice chair, and I represent Toledo.
Jim Devens, good morning. Dayton representative.
John Jack, Georgia, Columbus.
Kate Paget, Cleveland, Ohio.
Lisa Paget, Liz Dave.
Who was that again?
Lisa
My
Paget.
wife.
Lisa Paget, okay.
Ethan Gregory, Assistant Attorney General, representing the OVRC.
Activated. Battery good. Connected.
Dimitri Johnson, Assistant Legal Counsel with OOD.
Greg Dormer, Deputy Director. Yes. BSVI, welcome. Good to see everybody.
Christy Howell, Program Manager, BE.
Sally Nunes, Area Manager, BE.
Amy Seger, Reporting Manager, BE.
And who is that representing the Attorney General's office again?
Ethan Gregory
Ethan Gregory, okay, great.
for OVRC.
Okay.
And you, Mr. Secretary.
Christopher Sabin, Secretary, OVRC.
All right, who all do we have on the phone? I'll go through, I'm going to do it by area, so hopefully I don't miss anybody. The Toledo area. Any Toledo OOD staff or operators?
This is Dwayne Burkholder.
That's Dwayne Burkholder?
Mm-hmm.
And this is Lynn Huxwick, Business Consultant.
That's, could you spell your last name, please?
HU as in Sam, T as in Tom, WICK.
Hustwick, okay, great, thank you.
Anyone else in the Toledo area? All right, moving on to the heart of rock and roll, Cleveland.
For the Browns.
Any Cleveland operators or OOD staff? Well,
I think Tom.
I thought Tom was on there.
yeah.
He's alternate, or he's the rep. But
Yeah. The Cleveland representative, I know Tom Neal is on the phone, at least he was, the representative for Cleveland, but he can't vote, but he was on with us. So you still with us, Tom?
I am here, but I'm in and out, and you should not count on my participation.
Okay.
I spoke to Dave yesterday, and he's got it covered.
Okay. Thanks, Tom. Anyone else? One final time for Cleveland. All right. Moving on to Akron Canton.
Kelsey Burrier, Business Consultant.
Okay.
Kelsey Burry, and could you spell that name, please?
Kelsey is KELSI, and Burrier is B as in boy, URRIER.
All right, excellent, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in Akron Canton? All right. Moving on. Any Zanesville operators or OOD staff? Okay. We'll move to the Columbus area. Any Columbus operators or OOD staff? I think most of them are in the room. All right, moving on to Dayton, Ohio. Any Dayton operators or OOD staff?
New licensee David Sharp.
Okay, welcome, Dave.
It's Dave Sharp, as in SHARP?
CHAR.
CHAR, okay.
All right. Anyone else in Dayton? All right. moving on to the home of my, from last weekend anyway, bumbling Bengals.
Oh, man, well, yeah.
Anyway, any Cincinnati operators or OOD staff? Going once for Cincinnati, going twice, third and final time. All right, that completes roll call. We will move to the next agenda item, which is the approval of the July 15th, 2022 meeting minutes. So if someone would like to make a motion and a second, if we need to talk about anything or have a discussion.
I motion to approve.
Second.
Okay.
Okay, and who was that moved?
Oh, I'm sorry, John.
John?
John Diaco-George.
John Giacogiorgio, okay. Guy, and I just appreciate if you could just bear with me just for today, so loading everybody's names, so.
Sure.
So John Diaco-Georgio with the motion, Annette Lutz with the second. Now, any discussion? All right, not hearing any. We will call for the vote. Annette,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
Pageant, and I say yes as well. Did I get everybody?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
it's Christy Howe. I will make sure, this will be the last one, I will send those approved minutes to everyone. And then going forward, we'll give Chris the distribution list so he can be in charge of that. But since he wasn't there and we've got the minutes and the approved minutes, we'll send that out to everyone.
Christy, can you also make sure I get a copy of an updated distribution,
Yes,
that list?
yes.
I'd appreciate that. All right. The next item on here is July 15th, 2022 motions and BSVI responses.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
we had the motion about assigning for site attachments, any business that was in a building where an operator was already present, that motion. And the Bureau came back and said that they approved it in part, but there were still some questions about that. So I guess we wanted a little more talk about that and find out where we're lacking, what the concerns were on the part of the Bureau, and what we need to do to fix it.
We're pulling it up.
Okay.
So we have the language. There was concern, I will just, while they're looking it up, just overarching, I think there was some concern while the language in the motion didn't, it kind of could cover the immediate, what was happening at UC, but I think there were still some questions and maybe some issues like moving forward. Like if we were going to make this a blanket motion for all site attachments, how we were going to handle them forward, I think we had some more questions and concerns we wanted to talk through.
So, Mr. Chair, and
Yes.
it's going to be, you got to be patient. We're going to probably say Madam Chair because that's what we did. So, because it's coming back to me, like, what was our questions? I think the main one is it's very clear if a person is in the building already, that if machines are added, that it goes to them. What is not clear is if, and I think we have this at OSU potentially, like right now we've got 3 facilities, 2 being temped. If a new building comes on that's close to an existing BE facility, like again, that's where I'm like, do we post that? Does it go to the person closest in proximity? It's that question that I think that motion did not cover. Again, we're very clear when there's a physical operator in a building, but if it is a new building coming online at a facility and there's 2 or multiple operators, who does it go to? Or do we post it?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
We didn't address that at all in the motion. So the motion itself was just to address people in a physical building. So, I mean, we can talk about what to do for sites that show up on, say, a property, if you want to call it that, that's not a physical same building. but we intentionally did not include that in the motion. We intentionally included one physical building. Because Larry Danflis even asked about, like, if something else came on at Youngstown State, would it go to him? And we said, well, not by this motion, it wouldn't. And I said, we can talk about doing a second motion, but this motion itself, I think, just encompassed a single building.
So, Mr. Chair, it said, when new vending services are available, okay, in a building or facility where an operator is already assigned, the new vending service will go to the licensed blind operator already assigned at that location unless the new vending service constitutes a new facility and the operator wants the additional business. Again, it said building or facility. So if something were to come online in Youngstown where there's already one established operator, I would think that they would get that business the way that this is written. But if a new building comes online at like OSU or UC and there's not an existing person, like what that facility, that's where I still think it's unclear.
So I will say that we actually, it was, and I've told people this because it was, because I talked to a few committee members about it after that motion. There wasn't, outrageous concern, but they just wanted to make sure if it was an actual new business that didn't stop it from, and we didn't intend that. But anyway, it was almost poetic. The following week or 2 weeks after the committee meeting, it actually happened in the Cincinnati area. We had a building at UC that they were asking for service at. We looked at it. Dave and I talked about it. It was closest to Patrick Koo's route. And anyway, Dave and I had a discussion, and we were like, well, and after a conversation with Patrick, he was like, no, I would rather temp it. Let's see if it's actually going to do anything. So that's what we did. We put it on a temp agreement for now and I knew we needed to come back together and kind of, as a committee, work through this a little bit more. So I wanted to give time for that to occur and take place. And that's how we handled it, at least for now. That's not saying that's how we need to handle it going forward. I think we can get it a little more dialed in or figured out, though, so that we all, and Christy talked to me on August 4th about that too, about what happens if what happens if we don't have somebody assigned in the building. And some people say if it's a university thing, we would like to try and keep it, within the university operators so that we don't have so many different, if they're willing to take it. It's just food for thought. I'm not saying one way or another. It's up to the full committee, not up to me. So,
So, Mr. Chair, Sally's got something that I think I want her to mention on this.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So in the area where we're a bit confused here in Columbus, Ston Essman, his permanent facility, 684, he has several locations within OSU Wexner Medical Center. And then the temp facility that he's running, 844, contains other machines in the Wexner Medical Center that we did not have prior to this OSU contract. So based on this motion, that would lead me to believe that Ston would absorb all of the Wexner sites since it's all under one roof and one building.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I'm a little bit uncomfortable with this because what I'm going to say affects me potentially, but even like at the base where we had Laura's store is in a building where someone else is working as well, and that building without the store is doing really well, but when the store goes in, that the vending machines are not going to do as well because the store is going to take up a lot of that business. And if there's another operator on the base who's not making nearly the same income as the person running that building, it makes it really difficult for the other person as well. So it's not as cut and dry as we thought it was in July, I don't think.
All right. Did you have?
No.
And like most of the time, I agree with what we're doing. There's a few situations where it's not quite as cut and dry as we thought it was.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
And this is, I haven't thought this through yet, but just kind of spitballing. Could we make the decision, I mean, we have to redo a whole other motion, and I don't know if we're prepared to do it yet, but just to kind of think about, could we make the decision as to the determination to the local selection panel?
Mr. Chair? I'm
Yes.
sorry, Annette, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just thinking this through, and I don't know, there may be pitfalls to that, because it just kind of came into my mind. So Sally, if you have one of those pitfalls off the top of your head.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, one thing that concerns me about that is just consistency, because it wouldn't be handled the same in each location. I mean, I like having the local committee or local panel involved in that, and I think that's great. I don't know how we ensure consistency so that it's fair for all operators across the state.
Mr. Chair, I agree with Sally on that.
Well, let's read, Mr. Chair, I'm sorry.
Can we put this with a work?
Yeah, let's think this out some, because I think the committee has the right intention. I think the the Bureau has the right intention that, yeah, if we throw a couple machines in a building where there's already somebody there, that's how it should be. I mean, they should go to that, but there are things, exceptions, like everything else in BE. There seems to be exceptions, or it just doesn't work so clearly.
Typical hours in site development.
Program growth, efficiency, we can do it.
Efficiency makes sense.
Yeah, we can do it.
So, I think if the full committee is comfortable with this, I think we're going to put it in the efficiency work group and let them try and work through this and come up with something that we can come back together and talk about and see if we can make it a little bit more, make it clearer, make it more concise, and hopefully get consistency across the state. I think that's a smart thing to do. So right now, we're just gonna, I think, stay where we are for now until we can get that worked through and worked out.
Mr. Chair, we'll try and come up with something by the October/November meeting,
Right.
next time we meet, so.
Who chairs that committee?
I do.
I want to explain to you where I'm coming from later sometime.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, is that everything with the motions? All right, let's move to public comment. Anyone have public comment, either here or on the phone? All right, public comment, going once, going twice, going for the third and final time. All right, moving to the next agenda item, we'll go to rules distribution, and I believe that's going to be Christie.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, the final rules that were submitted to JCAR should be approved on the 22nd, which is next Thursday. And once that is approved, we will then go to, we gathered earlier in the spring people's preferred format on that. We'll work with an acknowledgement process on that. Anyone who wants it in like multiple formats, where we can do that as well. I know of one operator that has a specific reader that requested something on a USB thing, and I don't think we're able to do that. So, but we can do it Braille, electronic, print, and audio files. We can definitely do that. I forget the name of the reader. Is it a Victor reader?
Could have been a Victor Reader Stream, possibly.
I think
I may
it's got
interject.
a very old system.
First generation VR,
Yeah,
possibly.
probably.
Victor Reader.
So we might have to have further conversation offline about that and what we
Christie
can
can help you
do.
with that.
So again, by, middle part of October, everyone should have physical or an electronic version of the rule package.
All right. Any questions?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
So for the USB version of it, I mean, all they need to do is just copy the file off their computer onto their device, which is pretty easy to do no matter which reader you have.
So it's not that, it's IT, it's OIT, it's the state saying that we can't put a USB, there's rules around putting a USB on a state computer. That's part of the problem. Something to the effect of, and I will research again, like, we can't use a state computer to do it. So I'll have to figure out exactly if it is possible. I think I'm gonna have a conversation with the consultant and the operator again prior to going through this to see if there's any other method that would also work.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
If you provide me with a USB stick and a self-addressed envelope, I can do it for them.
Okay, that's good to know, John. Thank you.
It's not shouldn't be that hard to do.
Mr. Chair, it's Greg. Yes, John, I agree. We run into these things, and I appreciate you stepping up and offering to help find a solution. So, but we will double check. Sometimes we get a blanket answer, and when we explain it's about an accessibility issue, sometimes we can get through it. So,
Right. Sometimes we have to, I'm saying everybody, sometimes you have to know, you have to know how to ask the right question to get the right answer.
or the right person.
Yeah, well, that too.
So,
It's easy to get around.
Yeah.
I won't use those words.
I will.
Get around. That will
All right. The next item on the agenda, Christie asked for is staffing update.
Mr. Chair, so last meeting, we asked for a Columbus consultant because we did not have a Columbus consultant. We were having all of the other consultants around the state help out, and we felt that we would still be short-staffed getting one consultant, but at least we would at least have some breathing room. Since the last meeting, we had a retirement in Cincinnati, Bill Radcliffe. We do not need a second person in Cincinnati, but we do need a second person in Columbus. If I can get a second person in Columbus, then that will take, because right now I have Sally and Cynthia helping out with facilities. And if I have one person in Columbus, that would take those facilities and maybe one consultant off of it, but I would still need to use the other 4 to augment the one person in Columbus. We have like 21 facilities in Columbus. And again, OSU is huge, and that has expanded. So I'm not asking for anything above what I asked for back in July. We're just asking to backfill Bill Radcliffe, and it will be cheaper because the new person will be coming in as a new employee, not a 26-year employee that retired.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I have a little bit of concern with that just because based on our projections for next year's budget, we really don't have that much money at the end of the year.
Mr. Chair, again, it's $14,000. That's the 21.3
For the whole year?
portion of the staff salary.
Yeah, John, it's more than that, but for the program, our part of it is the 21.3.
Right, but is that for the whole year or is that per month?
No, I think that's for the whole year.
That's not bad.
It's for the one, wow.
That was kind of a stupid question, I'm sorry. Yeah, I guess
Okay, John.
that was bad.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, it's great. It's backfilling, but then redistributing. The landscape has changed since there was 2 consultants in Cincinnati. They're really isn't a need for two, and so it looks different, but it's the same number that we had all brought to you guys of staff after the last meeting. So we're not expanding what we'd already worked with you guys on in July.
All right. Anyone, any more discussion? Anyone want to make a motion with and a second so we can talk about it more?
Yes, we're good.
I mean, if you guys want to have a discussion, I can motion it, I don't mind.
You can do that, John, if you can get a second.
Sorry. So I'll do a motion that we hire a second consultant for Columbus.
Second.
Okay, now who was that seconded?
Jim Debus, D-E-B-U-S.
Jim David.
Small b.
Okay.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay. John, Jim, Scott, Dave? Sorry.
I mean, our budget can, I mean, if it's only that much money, our budget definitely can afford that. That's my only comment.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
I guess I kind of torn because I know we agreed last time and I understand that. So part of me thinking, yeah, we can afford it then and stuff. But then part of me is always concerned that, you know, we kind of agreed to it knowing that Bill was probably going to be retiring soon. So it was kind of like a redistribution type thing. At least that's what I was thinking. That it made more sense to have a consultant in Columbus as opposed to Cincinnati. To have two of them, I don't know, I'm torn on it, because yeah, we did approve it, and I'm kind of fine with that. I know there's a lot of facilities in Columbus, but I'm just torn on, you know, if it's been working, then, you know, and we're gonna have someone in Columbus, then why do we need someone else? What's not getting done now that would be getting done then?
So, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
so this, there's a couple things. I think when you guys do the survey of our staff that you're talking about, Annette, you're gonna hear a lot of stuff that they're doing. We've had to give overtime on things to make sure stuff gets done. Part of it is the staff making sure that you guys are not feeling any effects of their short staffing. Sally is covering facilities right now, which is also against our union contract, so we have a short window for that. So we're kind of patching things together to make sure that, you know, you guys are getting everything you need. And the other piece is, and I think they talked about this the last time, you know, with everybody spread out and the number of facilities here in Columbus, we have a lot of time spent just sitting behind the windshield time, as we call it. So there's a lot of hours, and we can pull the reports again from our field force manager, but part of it is about actually getting more of those hours that we're paying for, not behind the wheel of the car, but actually with you guys are working on the projects and things that need done. So, you know, I hear what you're saying about, well, I haven't noticed anything, or I'm still getting the same level of service, and that's partly due to the staff making that a priority for you guys. And there's been several meetings and discussions with our staff that they brought up to Sally and Christy and Amy about their levels of stress and trying to make sure they get everything done in the amount of time that they're traveling and doing things. So, you know, I understand, you know, your guys' concerns, you know, and that we've had lots of discussions over the last couple of years, you know, especially in our calls with the director about staff salary. So I'm very aware of that, and I make sure we look at things and that I'm convinced before I would bring it to you guys that it's something that we need, because I understand your guys' position and where you're coming from when it comes to that piece of the budget. So I wouldn't just automatically say, well, yeah, we absolutely have to backfill because Bill's gone. But when we looked at what was needed and what the staff were doing and who was covering things, that it it was a need to backfill Bill Radcliffe's position and then reposition where it would be headquartered.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
when was Bill's last day, and when did we have our meeting in July?
It was the 15th. We met on the 15th. And what was the other?
What was Bill's last day?
I want to say it was early August.
Just a second, Mr. Chair, I can look.
I think it was the same day as the meeting.
No, so
Oh,
Mr. Chair,
okay.
if you guys had inside information, Bill literally got up and retired within a few days of deciding and notifying us. If he was telling you guys, when we met last time, we were not in anticipation of being down another person within a month.
No, I didn't know that was coming.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
his last day was July 29th.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay, it was.
So I was off a couple days.
Yeah.
Well, I heard about it in early August, I think, or something like that. That's what it was.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So, and I get it that we're short now, but are we really short 2 people? That's why, because we are going to have, we've already got it posted. We're hoping to get the one in Columbus, which when that person is hired will take, I would assume, a lot of the pressure off. So I get what you're saying, that, Greg, we are absolutely short right now. But will we still be short once the first person is hired, is where I guess I'm going.
Yeah, Mr. Chair. Yes, so in July, when we asked, it was to add 1, and Bill was still there. So increasing the count by 1 would get us back into a more comfortable space. But since then, with Bill leaving, it put us back in the same position we were before we came to you in July about adding a person. So I think, and I get it, because we're saying we're putting it in Columbus and it kind of throws it off a little bit. We'll be redistributing the facilities that makes more sense geographically for less travel. But so again, we're just backfilling to keep it the number that we came to you that we wanted to be at the July meeting. So yes, and that was a very long answer to your question of yes. Even with the one that we posted, with Bill being gone, would still be shorthanded.
So one question, how many consultants, if we do the one you guys already asked for, and if we do that one, does that put us at like 8 consultants across the state?
Mr. Chair,
7.
it does. No, it puts us at 8. And pre-pandemic, we were at 10.
That's too many. Sorry, guys. All right, any other discussion? Okay. We're going to actually call for the vote. John?
Yeah.
Jim?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Annette?
No.
All right. The motion passed, motion carried. All right.
If I may interject, just for the standpoint of the minutes, who is Cynthia? You refer to Cynthia in Columbus?
She's our training manager.
She's your training manager. What is her last name?
Lee.
Lee, okay. All right, excellent. And what is the 21.3% refer to? Is that the state share?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
the 21.3% is the effect on the cash balance, so it's like
It is the state share, sorry,
Yes.
Mr.
Yeah.
Chair. Yeah.
It is a state share,
Yeah,
okay.
it's the match that the state, it's the portion that the state puts up to match to get the $3 and, let me not add another number, to get the other 70 something.
Get the other 70, what would that be, 78.7% or whatever?
not have a way with
Okay,
words today.
thanks. And again, thank you for bearing with me. I just like to have the clarification for the minutes since so.
No, not a problem.
Thank you much.
John Giacchigiorgio.
So can I explain it a different way that might help you a little bit too? So if we have a bill for $100,000 that has matching funds, we're responsible for $21,300 of that $100,000 unless it comes from the Fed. from the federal government.
You already explained it to me, but
It just gives you a little.
that's what I need.
I just wanted to do a different
Absolutely,
way.
thank you.
All right. Well, I guess speaking of budget, we're gonna get into the budget work group discussion. I know Tom said he was in and out, so I don't know if Tom Neal's able to give any information, or if he wants us to go ahead and move forward with that discussion. All right, well, I don't think Tom's available at the moment, so we're gonna go ahead. We do have some really good people, Tom Neal, and Tom was the chair of that work group, and then John Giorgio and Jeff Toll and Amy Sager, and did I forget somebody?
Yeah, Derek.
And Derek Newport, I apologize. And, but anyway, John's here, and he's a part of that work group. Amy's here, so John or Amy, one of you want to?
A couple of things. So back in August, we met to discuss some paperwork that the RSA needed for next year for our spending. So we dealt with that, and then this week we met to talk about future spending and clarify exactly what we were looking for, so that Amy could provide us the report that we actually wanted to make better decisions, which she actually has done already. Like I said earlier, my concern was that our ending budget is going to be, our ending cash balance at the end of next year is going to be a lot lower than it is now. But in all fairness, the amount of service charges that she put in there are also lower than what we're making this year. So I'm not totally concerned with that yet. But that's all I have for now.
All right. Amy, can you kind of walk the committee through like the budget projections for next year? I did get a chance to look at it and get a chance to look at both of those documents, but the one where there's quite a bit, and I don't, I'll ask the committee, do we want her to kind of walk us through each category real quick, or? Okay, so if you'll kind of walk us through what's being projected that you sent to the work group.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to inform the secretary that I've arrived. It's Derek Newforth.
Okay, could you spell your name, please?
DEREKNEUF as in Frank, ARTH.
Okay, great, thank you.
And Mr. Chair, Rick Shantz.
Yeah, thank you. I got to introduce myself.
Yeah.
Good morning, guys. Mr. Chair, Rick Shantz, Chief Legal Counsel for OOD. I arrived at 9:08 a.m. this morning. I apologize that I'm late to your meeting.
Oh, no problem.
Okay, no problem.
I'm only late because I brought baked goods, but security slowed me down and said they needed further inspection. So. Hence they're all home.
Did Dave make it, or are you by yourself, Garrett?
No, Dave just walked in as well.
Okay, so Mr. Secretary, Dave Bergassa is here as well.
Okay, excellent.
Cincinnati alternate.
Cincinnati, okay.
And let me get a handle on where we are on this. Well, we're doing the budget, so I was asking Amy if she would walk us through the projections that we have for next year. It's going to take a couple of minutes, but I think it's worth the time. It's important. The full committee needs to hear it, and then if we need to have discussion, we can do that and see what everybody thinks.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
did you want me to, was there a lot of, on this, there's 38 lines. Did you want me to go line by line, or do you just want me to kind of break it down by category?
Category should work, just to give people a decent idea of what's going on and where the money stands, and where our cash balance is, right? Well, what it's going to be at the end of this year, what it's going to start with for fiscal 23, and where we're projecting it to end in fiscal 23. I believe all that information was there.
Yes, Mr. Chair. So So the projected ending cash balance for fiscal year '22 is $502,000. And then we projected the service charge for '23 to be $516,000. Like John had mentioned earlier, it's just a conservative number. It's estimate of $43,000 a month. We've averaged for the full year 44.5, and it's continuing to surpass that. It was just a conservative estimate, just in case. You never know what's going to happen. And then the projected ending cash balance for '23 after all of the expenses is $242,533. And I don't know if you want me to go over kind of the expenses.
Yeah, let's do some of the like expansion, maintenance and repair. If there's John or Derek or somebody, you guys are on that work group, if there's a couple of other things on there you guys think are extremely important, we can, Amy can touch on those as well.
Maybe go over some of the ones that we have control over especially.
Okay, so we did budget, and everything is, a few of these are subject to change based on what is voted on today. So we budgeted that the fair minimum return, the stipend temporary if something is closed down, we budgeted $15,000 for that. We budgeted $15,000 for the federal portion to be distributed, but not the state, again, subject to change based on how you guys vote. The state unassigned, and this is after the insurance is deducted, is $69,000. So maintenance and repair, and again, this is all the 21.3%. So this is directly affected the cash balance. Maintenance and repair is $138,450. Moving and storage is $38,340. Equipment, newsstands, and this includes the Tri-C expansion, which is a very large expansion, and we base it not using branded machines. So if we would use branded machines, that number would go down drastically. But I know Pepsi and Coke is not necessarily a guarantee, so we didn't want to bank on that. But that's $253,809, and then $40,000 for initial inventory.
Amy, one question I have, I know, and I noticed that the other night when I was reading through that, it says Tri-C expansion, and I do think we were talking about trying to do Tri-C, but I think one of the big commitments we have coming up in fiscal '23, in June of '23, is OU Athens.
Mr. Chair, do you care to repeat it? I'm sorry, my hearing is horrible.
Oh, that's all right. I said one of the questions I had for you is, does that number you gave for Tri-C, does that also include, and right now I know that Tri-C is not really communicating with us, and that, and we'll get into that in a little bit, but is that Tri-C, or is that OU Athens that we're talking about right there? Because I know we have OU Athens scheduled for June or July of fiscal '23.
Mr. Chair, that number encompasses both of those expansions as
okay.
well as any type of replacement equipment that would be needed through other existing facilities.
Good. That sounds good. Awesome.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Derek, New Farm.
I think it would be beneficial to go through as much of this as possible and not to try to differentiate between what we have control over and what we don't. I'm not sure that that's a good notion. And also, if Tom were here, I think he would point out that an understanding of all the budget numbers is important to be able to make decisions about any one portion of the budget. And before we do that, if we do that, I want to get clarification on the fair minimum return numbers. There's two listed, 15,000 each, And in parentheses, there's mention of whether it's a federal portion or, I'm not sure I understand the distinction. There's the annual and the temporary, and I'm assuming that means if a person's entitled to fair minimum return because their facility's been permanently closed, that's only a temporary solution. But if a person's facility is temporarily closed, then it's an indefinite period of time for which they're eligible for that. Is that the distinction there? Or have we
Mr.
thrown
Chair.
the federal money in there somehow too?
Amy C. Secretary.
The fair minimum return annual, that's the annual benefit check. Our coding just
right.
says fair minimum return, so
Okay.
I apologize for not
Mr.
rewording
Chair,
that.
I'm
The fair minimum return temporary would be the stipend if a facility was closed.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So the fair minimum return is actually the return of the federal vending machine money as required by law, correct? That's a benefit check or the distribution of the federal vending machine income. Is that correct?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
that is correct.
That is correct. Okay. I think that the terminology should be changed then. I don't think that that's, I don't think that that one pot of 15,000 is actually fair minimum return. I don't think that's what that is. I think that's simply distribution of federal vending machine income is required by statute, whereas the other $15,000 is actually is fair minimum return monies.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
I was under the impression that we were not allowed to get money from federal machines anymore, that had to be given to an operator.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
so
Christie.
we can't third party it. Like NASA, they themselves third party it. It's not us third partying, so they do pay us. And so it's going to be a lot less, but they're allowed to third party it. And going forward, an operator can third party it. The SLA cannot third party it. So, and if an operator third parties it, that then becomes part of the operator's MOR and their money, it's not distributed.
John, does that answer?
No, because even with NASA, for example, I thought that would have to be given to an operator, and the operator dealt with it. So I still think we're doing it wrong.
Mr. Chair.
Yes. Nat.
Just a quick explanation. All the tax said was that the Bureau cannot third party. A federal agency, if we waive something, we are still allowed to waive federal property. Right now, for example, NASA was an example, and Elton Prison would be another example, where we had waived it in the past. They are still allowed to run it, but they have to pay monies back to the program. That's in the law, that's allowed to be done. The agency, the Bureau, can no longer get into a third-party subcontract agreement with the federal, to operate a federal entity.
An example of that, John, you'll remember this probably, for many years, our program had, and probably in some federal locations too, universal vending be some of the stuff that we couldn't get an operator or a vendor to take. So and the agency can't go down that road anymore. Now, in order, if an operator could, a blind vendor could take it and do the third party thing, but the SLA cannot.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Derek.
And if we do proceed with getting into some more of the categories, I do want to clear another point of information up, if I may. The cash on hand, the cash balance, or I should say, does that include the inventory money? That we now have a cash balance that's inventory money and specifically earmarked for only inventory purchases and so forth. Is that included in our cash balance now?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
on this sheet, it is not included. So that would be an additional, if I look at the cash balance report. I just want to, for a clarification, it's hard to mesh all of the cash together just because of how it's spent. And that is why it's not included on here. But it is on the cash balance report that was sent out.
And Mr. Chair?
Yes.
So the projected expenditure of $40,000 for initial inventory, is that money that will come out of the cash balance that's listed here on this report, or not on this report, but on this budget? Or is that 40,000 initial inventory money going to come out of that pot that Amy just described?
Mr. Chair, it would come out of the other account.
So it really shouldn't even be on this, unless you include both balances. That initial inventory number
I will take it
should be
off.
reflected in this balance, correct? Just clarification, that's all.
So Derek, are you saying we should go through each category?
Well, there aren't that many left, but I think it's important that people understand how much money is being spent on various categories, because it does inform decisions that the committee may have to make about various things, particularly today, since some of the stuff you'll be deciding is required to.
So do we, poor Amy. Amy, do you know what, I guess we'll try and go through these categories. I don't think we have to redo the ones we've already done, but I'm sitting here going, which ones have we done?
Well, there really aren't that many. It wouldn't be that difficult to read through them and everything, just to give people an impression of what kind of things we are budgeting for and what the amounts of money is being budgeted. And I would ask the question too, is this an exhaustive list of the things that are being budgeted for? Or is it not an exhaustive list of things that are being budgeted?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So this is an exhaustive list of all the expenses. This is every expense that we have. I will say that the insurance, which is on here for $50,000, and initial inventory, which is on here for $40,000, the insurance will come out of the state assigned income, so that's not necessarily going to be a hit to the cash balance, and the $40,000 will come out of the other, I don't know if you want to say pot of money or bucket of money, whatever. And right now that cash balance is $220,000, so it would drop that to $180,000.
All right. So Amy, if you can, I guess we'll go through the categories and just go through them and tell us what the projection is, you know, what we're looking at spending for the categories for next year. As you're going through it, if you realize that's one we've already talked about, I don't know that we have to do it again, but.
Mr. Chair, I apologize. Am I going through the other categories that are on here besides what I just spoke about?
Yeah, let's do that. Just what the projections are to spend for the fiscal 23.
Okay, I'm going to, this is all of our admin stuff. I'm just gonna go down the list and then give the grand total if that's okay. And if you have anything that you want a specific number on, it's just a big list. So it's serve safe, reasonable accommodations for BE staff, NAMA membership dues, NABM membership dues.
Amy, sorry, can you give us the dollar amount budgeted?
Yep.
Sorry about that.
No problem. Serve safe is $319.50. Reasonable accommodation for BE staff is $3,442.08. NAMA membership dues is $170.40. NABM membership dues is $745.50. OBG is $255.60. Upward mobility, $319.50. Hearing officers, $1,704. State phones, $3,195. Mailings is $426. Printing and brailing of new rules is $213. Parking was $170.40. CBOS processing of MOR payments is $63.90. Office supplies is $170.40. AG litigation is $3,876.60. IVR is $1,171.50. Glass conference travel is $852. Sorry, baby's got me running out of breath.
I can continue to read those if Amy's not comfortable doing it. I have the report right in front of me.
It's okay, I'm almost through it. DAS fleet and contracts is $3,621. Ohio Shared Services is $213. Statewide is $5,325. Shared legal costs $351.45. And staff salaries $274,710. Mentioned insurance. OVRC secretary is $2,700. OVRC member travel reimbursement is $4,000. We've mentioned the fair minimum return and maintenance and repair, moving and storage. The management service is not including staff salary. So that's like job coaching. If we have to bring in somebody for like consultation on a facility or design type thing, $852. And then other revenue that we have includes like investments, penalties, salvage, surplus. That's projected at like $15,000.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
And it should be pointed out too that those numbers that were just expressed actually only represent the portion that we provide and then gets matched by the Fed. So that's actually 21 whatever percent of the actual expenditures. So that's why the numbers may seem lower than they actually are, because there's a huge portion that gets put in by the Feds.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
So if you take off the insurance and the initial inventory that doesn't impact the matchable cash balance, the ending is $332,533.07. But who knows which way that.
Well, yeah. So I'm gonna say this just so that everybody's clear about this. A budget, and a budget is a projection, projecting in each category. Projections are subject to change, and we work through it all the time. Sometimes maybe I'll use M&R, maybe we don't spend as much on M&R as we budgeted for. We usually do, but I'm using this as an example. Maybe we don't spend that much, and we go, well, we need to buy some new equipment. Maybe we can pull, especially if it's close to the end of the fiscal year, maybe we can pull some money from the M&R budgeted money and move it over to, we need to buy, a couple machines for some facility somewhere that's in desperate need of machines. So the budget is subject to change throughout the year. I know Amy has told us, Sally, Christy have all, said, it is a work in progress. So, but what I'm saying is, as we get into it and as the year unfolds, we don't know what's going to happen. They do have some flexibility to move money around. And it's the same thing as, our monthly budgets for our houses, for our whole, for the household budget. You can have a budget all you want, but if something blows up that you didn't expect, you got to move money around all over the place to get it fixed. So anyway, I wanted to ask if we have any other discussion, if there's any other questions.
This is Christopher again, just for my clarification, NAB is National Alliance of Business, correct? NAB, you talk about NAB membership, and NAPM was another.
That's a
Blind
NFB
merchants.
thing. That's the National Association of Blind Merchants.
Blind merchants, okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, the 21. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, dear. New farm.
The work group received the budget that everybody just heard, and along with that, there was a draft budget report. It's actually termed a budget status report, which is a good moniker for that. But it does say that it's draft, and I noticed within that most of the numbers match the numbers of the actual budget, the 2023 budget, but one in particular doesn't, the budget staff salary. And I didn't know if there was any rationale to that, or if it just happened that way, or it actually says on the budget status report, 185,000 versus 274,000 actual budget. And whereas all the other numbers that are listed in the status report, and this is the draft of the status report that you guys will, if you agree that this is an appropriate report for the committee, it's the report that monthly will say, this is how much we had budgeted at the beginning of the year, and this is the percentage of the money that we've actually spent so far up to this date, that kind of thing. So I wondered, Amy, if these were real numbers or if these were just numbers that you arbitrarily plugged into that draft report, budget status report.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
when I did that, it was only to set up how it would possibly be laid out and get feedback from the budget work group. The 185 was the kind of like what we had spent so far this year, so it was only a placeholder.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
But if that report is wanted from the budget work group or the committee, they will be reflective of the actual real budget numbers.
Yeah, good, okay. Because most of these numbers were real numbers based on that budget, but that one in particular wasn't. I just wondered if there was any rationale for that. Thanks for the clarification.
Yeah, I just had to get the actual number from our fiscal department, and in the meantime, I had put in a placeholder.
Perfect.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Just a question, as I'm hearing some of the conversation, I'm not hearing anything that says anything about putting something back, kind of like a savings account or a reserve or anything like that. You mentioned the possibility of machine exploding randomly or whatever, and then you have to scramble from various pots of money. Is there any thought to any monies getting set aside for these? I recognize that a budget kind of does some of that, but as any of us who have homes, you still have to have a pot of money just for that emergency, just because. So I guess I'm just asking, is there anything to that at this point?
Well,
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, there is. That's part of the, if I may, that's part of the line item that's $253,809 that's been budgeted for equipment, for new stands, for existing stands, and to be replaced. So that's actually been budgeted. Those kinds of equipment purchases have been budgeted for.
And I gave that example just to make the committee aware that we can move money around from category A to category B or C if we need to. We don't like to, but sometimes it becomes necessary.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
The one thing I would like to see from Amy, and I should have asked you about it earlier, is how this differs from what we spent in fiscal year 2021, or 2022, I mean.
Mr. Chair, John, you can repeat it. I'm so sorry. I need hearing aids apparently.
I said the one thing I would like to see is how your projections compared to 2022.
Okay.
Just to show us where we're going up and where we're going down. It just makes it easier to see how we're,
Mr. Chair, I can definitely work on that. A lot of the numbers were kind of based on a mix of 22 and then the increased service charge that we've seen this year. I will say that we did a lot of savings in 22 of, I guess not savings, but frugal spending in 22. So the projections, especially with the OU and Tri-C expansion in that category, are going to be much more. But I can definitely get a comparison.
Okay. Thanks.
So, and I don't know if Tom is available, but John is on that work group and Derek's on that work group. I thought these reports were good when I read through them the other night. I went through them. I even actually called Derek and talked to him about it a little bit last night. And I was going to call some other people too, but I ran out of time. So anyway, Well, first off, let me ask this of all the committee members. Does anybody have any questions about the categories that Amy went through? Was there anything that stood out in your mind that, hey, I need to ask this question or that question about? All right.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
If I may, I mean, I would like to say that John just made a valid point about these aren't the only reports that are necessary for the committee to conduct business in actively participating with the Bureau. And John was right to point out that there needs to be, previous budgets and previous year's budget reports included for members to understand what's actually going on with the monies of the program. And I want to say to the committee members right now that are present that I think it's very important that all of you make yourself aware of what is going on with the budget and what the numbers actually mean, so that you can make better decisions in your discussions with operators and with the Bureau about how things should go. It's very important, and even more so now, as we've seen over the past couple of years. It's vital that you guys engage, actively engage, as you're required to do, with the Bureau in establishing what is a good use of the funds, of the set-aside that we all need. Please make that a priority. Make that important to you as individual members and as a collective, to make sure that our program can operate the way that it's supposed to. Please, I mean, I know it's boring, I know it's difficult sometimes, it gets confusing, and there's all kinds of communication breakdowns that happen when you're discussing budgets and expenditures and revenues and everything. It's very difficult, but please believe that it is worth your effort. Please don't shirk the responsibility that you have to the operators and the programs and the grantors and everybody.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm going to say this. It's something that can be learned. It's a learned. But when you're sitting down looking at the budget reports, I know it can be intimidating to people too. They're like, what does all this mean? If you sit there and look at it and study it, you can get a grasp on it and wrap your head around it. It's just, there's so many numbers there that some people struggle with it, and then they get frustrated with it. And, and if that happens to any committee members or even a regular operator, get a hold of somebody on the committee. We will go through it with you. We will try and answer the questions. If we don't know the answer, we will work to get the answers. That's what we're supposed to do, or what we better do and should be doing. So I guess my question now is everybody comfortable with the projections that Amy had for 2023? And I'm going to go to get the feedback from people in the budget work group, John and Derek. And
for me to be comfortable, I need to see how it'll be different in 2022.
Mr. Chair, can I add some stuff? Again, we sent those reports, the historical reports. The other thing is that, it's hard to, as we're coming out of a pandemic, 21 and 22, I mean, 22 is much better, but you almost have to go to 19. And I can tell you that, again, the maintenance and repair is like half last year because we were conservative on that. But as things are opening up, we can't really base that on last year, if that makes sense.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
I totally understand where you're coming from, but you have to start somewhere.
Mr. Chair, it's Greg.
yes, great.
Yeah, that's fine. Whatever you guys, if you want 21, 22, I'm assuming you're talking about where we ended year-end numbers, John?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not from last year, but for this year.
Yeah, for 22, 20, we can provide that for you guys.
It just helps to. Yeah. It just kind of helps a little bit. I understand that our businesses are really different, and they're going to be getting better over time, but you have to start somewhere.
Yep.
And I think 2019 is too far old.
Mr. Chair, I would disagree with John on that. I think as much historical data as we can have is important and certainly relevant. I don't think you should limit to yourself just to the previous year ever. I think historical data is always good, and as far back as you're capable of generating it, it's valuable and worthwhile. And while I have you, Mr. Chair, did I miss my opportunity to make public comment? Have I, being late, did I forego my opportunity to do that?
Can we, Derek, can we try and, or is it directly related to this
It
discussion?
actually is directly related to this, but so I can make it part of the conversation if you'll allow me, or if you want to wait to a specific time after this specific conversation, I could make a public comment then, whichever you prefer. It doesn't, or not at all. That's fine too.
You can, since it's related, go ahead, Derek. We'll do the public comment.
And I'm gonna read a little bit from the federal code. And I don't intend for this to be pedantic, and I sometimes am pedantic, I suppose, and I apologize for that. But I really feel passionate about this. This is core to our program being able to function the way that it's supposed to, and that it is to provide opportunities for blind individuals to have the opportunities that we all have. So what I want to say about the budget, and there's a thing about apportionment of funds to purposes allowed for collection of set-aside. And that's all covered in the Federal Code 395.9, the setting aside of funds by the state licensing agency. And there's part A, B, and C to that. And basically what A says is the SLA is obligated to set out a means for collecting those funds that then gets approved by the Secretary of Education. And then that approval, those funds can only be set aside for 5 specific purposes, and you all know what those are: maintenance and replacement of equipment, purchase of new equipment, management services, assuring a fair minimum return, and then also benefits under certain circumstances. And that's parts A and B. And then part C of 395.9 reads the following. The state licensing agency shall further set out the method of determining the charge for each of the above purposes listed in paragraph B of this section, which will be determined with the active participation of the State Committee of Blind Vendors, and which will be designed to prevent, so far as is practicable, a greater charge for any purpose than is reasonably required for that purpose. The state licensing agency shall maintain adequate records to support the reasonableness of the charges for each of the purposes listed in this section, including any reserves necessary to assure that such purposes can be achieved on a consistent basis. To my knowledge, the Bureau, the state licensing agency, or what we call the Bureau, has never done that, has never set up the method of determining the charge for each of the 5 listed purposes. And I filed a grievance several years ago on that subject, and that grievance was never heard, and I was denied a hearing on that subject. I think it's important now that the committee take note that the Bureau has never done that. And if I was the committee, I would demand that the Bureau do that. And that goes directly to the discussion that we're having now. You are to be involved in your budget. You are to be involved in this requirement of the federal law for the SLA to establish a method for determining the apportionment of the monies that are collected from you and your businesses. So please take this very seriously. And if nobody does take this seriously, I'm going to resubmit my grievance, because it's that important. But I hope it doesn't get to that. I hope that the committee will sit up and demand that the Bureau fulfill its obligation to the law, and demand that they actively participate with you in doing that. They're charged with doing that with you, and you should demand that they do it. That's my public comment. Thank you for your time.
All right. Anything else on budget? Let me ask this. Do we need to approve?
The form, or, the reports. But
Christie, do you guys need a motion to move forward with the fiscal 23 budget, or do we?
Mr. Chair, I don't think so. I think that, again, we've said time and time again that the budget, nothing is set in stone, nothing is, again, RSA and even our fiscal use, it's the big number, and we can always, if something comes on board, we can constantly talk with the work group, with this group. Active participation, I don't believe means that you have to have a motion, you have to have robust conversation, which I think we've been having.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I'm not comfortable doing that because we saw the report a couple of days ago, but we haven't actually discussed it that much except for what we discussed this morning.
Correct.
So I'm not really comfortable putting any motions out for that.
can't do a motion.
Yeah.
I would abstain anyway, 'cause I
I
haven't
would
seen
too.
it.
Right. Okay, so we'll leave it. We're gonna, we do have some other items that are, well, I put them right below the budget discussion, but I wanted to have the broader discussion first of the overall budget. So now we need to get into the one of them isn't budget, the 4 things, there's 5 items. One is not financial related. The very first one on the list is co-pays for service calls.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I move that co-pays remain 0 for the next federal fiscal year.
Do we have a second?
Yes.
Okay. Annette Lutz with the motion, John Giorgio with the second. Any discussion? All right, not hearing any. Annette?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Yes. All right, motion carries. The next one is fair minimum return, stipend payments. And if, for people who don't know, and for our secretary's benefit, that is when someone's facility is impacted by like a closure for a long period of time or a short period of time, or the sales for, like there's construction around it, the sales are restricted because, so they can apply for a stipend. It is based on availability of funds. And I think it's
Mr. Chair, what was it for the last
Is it
year?
500?
I think it was 250 if I'm not
I
mistaken.
don't remember.
It was 250.
I was thinking we
I would
raised it.
like a verification of that.
I was thinking we had raised it.
I thought we did too.
That's why I think it was 500.
It was at one point, John, but we took it down because of the pandemic.
Oh, okay, I forgot about that.
Do you guys know?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I'm looking at it.
Okay.
See, I said madam again.
Madam Vice Chair.
Madam Vice Chair,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
There we go.
That would have been last September.
I'm 99% sure, Mr. Chair, that it previously had been at 500, and then last year, or actually at 500 to 0 to 250, I believe, is the current rate.
I think it is.
And then we have budgeted.
I'm 99% sure of that. And the amount budgeted for 2023 was only $15,000. And that's our portion. That actually translates to whatever it is,
That's
$70,000.
about 70 something.
Mr. Chair, it
Or
was
actually, that's not
250.
just Mr. Chair, but, fair minimum return or what we call stipend isn't matchable, is it? I don't believe that fair minimum
I don't
return is
know.
matchable, is it? No.
No.
No, it's not. So they actually only budgeted $15,000. That's
Yeah.
it. That's the actual amount.
Mr. Chair, it's $250 a week.
Right, that's what I thought it was.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I make a motion that we keep fair minimum return / stipend at the current rate of $250 a week for the next
Second.
federal fiscal year.
Did you second, John?
Yes, sir.
All right. I'm repeating some of this for the Secretary's benefit. Annette Lutz with the motion, John Giorgio with the second. Any discussion? All right, not hearing any. We'll call for the vote. Annette?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
All right, yes. Okay. The next one, I believe, is, I'm pretty sure it's benefit payments. That involves the unassigned income and the federal portion, state unassigned income and the federal portion of that. To us, they're one and the same, but for distribution purposes, they are two different things. So,
Mr. Chair.
yes.
I almost said Madam Chair. Good Lord, Christie, thank you very much. I mean, I would like to say that it doesn't just include that. I mean, you can send service charge money back out to people, and that's a benefit too. I mean, you're discussing benefits, and I think it would be beneficial since, we stopped looking at ways that we can generate benefits for operators a long time ago. We've just fallen deeper into there's not going to be anything left. I think it's time to start thinking outside the box with benefits. There's other means of providing benefits to operators other than set-aside funds and unassigned income funds. And the federal money, of course, that's obligatory, that's perfunctory, you have to do that. But there are other means that could benefit operators as well. There are some states that allow operators to participate in state retirement funds. And I mean, that's just one example. There's got to be ways to generate benefits for operators, and I think the committee should take that responsibility seriously to come up with some other means of providing benefits for operators. There's no reason that they shouldn't be entitled to some or have some available to them.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
It would probably be beneficial, and I can do that. I don't know if we could maybe use a work group for it, because Derek's right, many states, not all, but many states do find ways to generate benefit money for their operators. It's where it's not being used out of budget. Most states don't have, big pots of money just laying around that they're just handing out to their vendors. But even throughout the pandemic, a lot of states have found means of coming up with monies for their folks. I know the state of Minnesota just started paying their vendors money. So we have had states find means for this to happen. Now that's not necessarily, it's related to what we're talking about with this. When we say benefit money on the thing here, we're specifically referring to the unassigned income that the state generates. But Derek's right. There are other things out there where we could look.
Yeah, and I think it's worth researching. So is that something you want to
I can do that.
benefit work group?
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I want to say, specific examples within the law itself that I just read, talks about retirement and pension funds, health insurance contributions, provision for paid sick leave and vacation time. It's not just necessarily handing people a check either. There's other things that constitute benefits that should be looked at.
I was on, I'm not saying we should do this at Ohio. I was on Annette and I both were on a national call on Tuesday night, and one of the states out there is using set aside to pay vacation pay. Wow. Okay, I hadn't heard that before. And like I said, I'm not saying we should do that. It was just, okay, that's creative. And some of that can be subject, I'm sure, to state law too, and our laws may not be the same as theirs. So, but it's also federal, so.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
The biggest problem with that, obviously, is it's the same concern we have when we refer to our unassigned income.
Correct.
Once you pay it, you can't, you can't match it. So you're really paying 5 times the amount. It costs the program 5 times the amount. But is Dolby okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
But we still need to deal with, the federal portion gets distributed. Amy, did you say there was, after the insurance, was paid, there's like 68 or 69,000, something like that left.
Mr. Chair, yes, it's 69,000.
69,000.
That's state,
That's state on
and that's the
assignment.
rest of the state unassigned.
Yeah, and Christine, that's just it. Match it or not match it.
Yeah.
My thought. I don't know what everybody thinks of it. Amy, I have a question. Do we know what the amount of the federal unassigned income would be per operator?
Mr. Chair, hold on just one second. Let me pull up the
Yeah, no problem.
cash balance report again. Mr. Chair,
Yes.
so far in '22, we've collected $10,403.
We have roughly 80 operators, is that, or not quite that?
It's roughly 80. I think last time we had 79 recorded. So we'll say 80.
It's a alternative per operator.
$100. Mr. Chair,
Yes.
this one's a tricky one. Just to spell it out, it's, do we take that 60-some thousand, the federal, it's done, what we already pointed out, that's obligatory to go to everybody, be about a couple $100. But the state unassigned income, what we have traditionally paid out to everybody, the last few years, the committee, honestly rightfully so, during the pandemic, chose to match that money because our program needed it. So the question comes, does our program still need it? And I don't know, we could use it. I mean, it's definitely money, to take $69,000, if we distribute it to everybody, then we're basically throwing away 5 times that. Not throwing away, it's going to operators, but there's another 80-some percent, almost 80% that we're not getting to the program. And it's hard to not distribute that money, or, not to take that money that we could use. But I also know that our vendors could use it, so I'm torn what to do with it.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I mean, I agree with Annette, and I agree with others who have said that it seems foolhardy to take money that can be matched and just hand it out. And it is essentially what it is a set-aside rebate. So I think, what I said earlier, I think there's better means of providing benefits to operators, and I think we should look closely at ways that we can do that without affecting set-aside, so that we do have all funds always available to match and do the things that we need to do. Although, I mean, like we talked about earlier, some things aren't matchable that set-aside is specifically to be used for, like fair minimum returns. But yeah, I think it's important that we look at this that way.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I know a lot of operators like those checks and depend on those checks, but I really feel that we should be using that money where we can get the matching funds for it and use it for the program. Because if we do what the budget projects, our ending balance is still not that good. There's things that we've missed or that come out during the year. We're kind of not in great shape still.
Yeah.
So I think we should put it back. Yeah, that's a motion, I guess. So my motion is that we take the state set aside and put it as part of our state unassigned income and put it as part of our matching so that we can match it as part of, how do I put it?
So you,
We do the same thing that we've done the last couple of years.
Yeah, but I'd rather specify it.
And, and take the state unassigned income, not distribute it, and match it for money into the general
That's what, yeah,
fund of
exactly.
the program.
That's good. That's my motion.
I'll second.
So that was, Chris, that was John Diac of Georgia with that motion, and
Annette Lutz.
Yep.
Okay,
She's
great.
easy.
Yeah, she's easy, exactly. Some of the.
Hold on.
I didn't mean that.
Well, you are in that. She is easy, actually.
That didn't sound, didn't sound good, but,
But,
all right.
hey, listen.
Any discussion? We do have a motion on the floor. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, I agree that we should come up with other ways to get benefits, but I think it's too late to do anything for this year, so I think we need to make sure we have it ready for next September.
Mr. Chair,
I know it's too late, but it may not happen as quick as people would like, but.
Well, to make our decision for today.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, for today.
Right.
Mr. Chair,
Chair,
Yeah, yes, Annette.
we'll commit to, we may not commit to being able to find or do anything, but we'll commit to really looking and seeing what we can do. Like I said, it is working in other states. So honestly, and they have different budgets and different means of collecting income, some of them do, and all that, but it's definitely something we can look into.
Derek, were you trying to get in?
yeah, I was. And I just want to say that I agree with what John and Annette just said. But I also, John made a point earlier about how these checks are very important to some operators, and they are. But since this is essentially a set-aside rebate, I think maybe if it's a necessary resource for operators at a certain income level, perhaps we should revisit the set-aside fee structure to make it more beneficial to lower income operators, so that they're not as burdened as they're. And we do have a progressive fee structure now for set-aside, which is wonderful, and it should be that way. But perhaps we need to tweak it a little more to provide greater benefit to the lower income operators who will desperately miss the benefits, so-called benefits check that's not been coming out, and for the foreseeable future will not be coming out.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
I totally agree with him. I mean, it's gonna take making a rule change for it, but it's been a long time since the set-aside structure was set the way it is, I think, and inflation has really changed a lot in these years. So it really makes sense to review that again over the next, year.
All right, anything else? All right. We do have a motion on the floor. Annette?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
All right, motion carries. And sorry, looking at the agenda real quick here. The next one on here is, this is a part of our rules, but it's pretty much set by state per diem. Somebody can tell me if I'm wrong. It's rates of OVRC members, rates of reimbursement for OVRC members to attend meetings.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
we have traditionally been set by state per diem, but actually, one of the Bureau's attorneys at a meeting here, probably last time we talked about this, it may have been Rick, I don't know, I don't remember it, but one of them pointed out to the committee that even though the state has a per diem, the state law says actual and necessary. So they said there is there is some wiggle room, at least it was the opinion. Like I said, it may not have been you, Rick. I don't know if you're willing to throw that on yourself or not. One of the state attorneys actually said it was, since the state law says actual and necessary expenses, because we always talked about folks with drivers and if someone had to stay at a different hotel and things like that, where that falls. Now, I'm not saying we should jump in that hoop today necessarily. We just stick with the state per diem like we have been doing. But it is something to consider.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Derek.
The committee is also able, under this category, to consider compensation and I know that's everybody's favorite subject, but I'm still a proponent of it. I believe that committee members should be reimbursed I believe they should receive a stipend for being, not just for their expenses to attend the meetings, but for their participation as a committee member.
Did we change that?
Mr.
I
Chair.
thought we took that out of the
Yeah,
rule.
Mr. Chair, that was taken out of the rule.
I thought
Doesn't
we
mean you can't
changed.
do it. It's not forbidden to do it.
No,
You
it's
can-
not.
You can still do it.
I-
It's just not required for you to discuss it today.
I thought we changed it to committee-related expenses, or there was some kind of rule, talk about that. I don't have my rules here. But
Well,
then-
in the rule for, in this rule for OVRC members to attend meetings, I put it on here very simplistically on the agenda, but it does go through and I don't have it right in front of me, but it also says something towards the end of that, and any other duties, I guess, that incur expenses on behalf of OVRC.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, committee-related expenses. Not just for attending meetings, but for doing other
Other
work. You had to do some kind of travel or something.
Right, or even a representative had to travel from, I don't know where it would be, but.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
The committee's always had this predicament, and I'll bring it up again. You have an officer sitting at this table who's receiving a paycheck for being here, and it's inequitable that one officer receives compensation while others do not.
Well, we know that when we run.
I know, I understand.
Yeah, that we signed up for.
I just want to renew the discussion. I think it's an important discussion.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
If he's talking about the secretary, well, he's not part of our,
Yes, he is.
well, I mean, he is, but he's
Read the
not.
bylaws.
No, I mean, he is, but I've never actually seen him, honestly. He is, but he's not, in a sense.
He's an officer and member of
No, I
the
know that,
committee.
but,
Well, he's an officer, not a member.
yeah.
Um,
And he's an officer explicitly for that reason. He's not like an operator.
All right, so, all that being said, I don't know what we did last year, but something to look at. I'll move that we continue with the same, whatever we've been doing for compensation per diem, for reimbursing members for attendance of, their expenses for attendance of meetings.
I'll second that as well.
All right, we have a motion and a second. You got everything you?
Yes, it was in that, and John Giorgio also.
All right. Any discussion? All right, Annette?
Yes?
John?
Yeah.
Dave?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
All right.
All right. The final one related to this anyway, and this one isn't financial, is redistricting. That has to do with where a store or facility is located, and if the committee feels we need to move it from one electoral district to another. I'm not aware of any, or nobody said anything to me about that, but anybody have anything on that? All right, it doesn't sound like it. So we're going to move to the next item on the agenda, which is the statewide work group. John or Cynthia or one of you?
Cynthia's not here. So we've had a couple meetings in the last couple of months, and based on availability of hotels and based on Mother's Day and other things going downtown, we felt that the best weekend to have the statewide is the first weekend of May. We've started discussing what we're going to do at the statewide, and that's kind of moving along. We have another meeting scheduled for the beginning of October, and I've been in talks with OVV to decide what we're going to do with the food show and what we're going to do with events outside the statewide that are going to be at the hotel. That's kind of all I got right now.
All right. And you guys were working through some things. You know, I was on one of those calls for the statewide work group, and I know one of the members of that work group suggested, they threw an item out as a suggestion to that whole work group, and it was, you know, my point of saying this is that there's good people on there, and they're, please.
No, I said definitely.
And someone threw out a suggestion, can we get, an expert to come in and talk to us about how to place items, I guess it was like how to market your product in the vending machine, or how to, because we've all been loading machines for a year. We think we're loading them correctly. We believe we are. Are we? I went, well, that's a great question. And I'm not talking about how you put it in the machine. I'm talking about product. I know that person was talking about product placement and things like that. And, so hey, it's directly related to the type of work we do. And I know I've had feedback from operators who have said, we want statewide, I've heard from operators who said, well, we want more geared toward what we do. And okay, well, that's one thing that is, and there's going to be speakers too, and not everything's, not everybody's going to be interested in every single person. You hope they are, but, there's niche stuff as well too that needs to be, that stuff needs to be in there as well, because you want there to try and be something great. But anyway, my whole point saying all of that is that John and his statewide work group are doing a good job, and keep up the good work. And if I haven't been on your work group, I apologize. I've tried to be on some of them. The committee chair can't be at every single one of them, but it's good to know what's happening, and I have great people running work groups, so thank you all, and keep up the great work.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I just want to say that was a fantastic idea, and we're working to actually do that.
Yeah.
And at the time, we weren't sure if we had nano membership and stuff, but we found out that we did, so.
Yep, and it was reaffirmed this morning.
That's how I found out, actually,
Yep.
based on the budget.
Yeah.
So that's all that I constantly
Yeah. So we weren't sure. We thought we did, but we weren't positive. So you guys thought we did.
That helps a lot.
Yeah. All right, the next one up is the efficiency work group. Annette.
All right, we've met, and we were trying to kind of lay it out what our goals were. Obviously, it's, efficiency, trying to see where the program can be more efficient, budgetarily, staff management, just all around. And we thought, we can all sit here and go back and forth and think about it, but let's go to the people that actually know, instead of the handful of us who are on the work group or on the full committee even. So we decided to bring forward and do surveys. We're in the process, we're getting ready to put together drafts for everyone to see, for both BE staff and for our operators, so that we can get a good gauge of where things are, what's efficient, what isn't efficient, what's the staff doing, what do operators believe is going on. Schaefer will be a part of that, obviously, and going through from there. So we're just at the process where we're kind of taking ideas and putting these draft surveys together. We're going to meet again here in a couple weeks, hopefully to have the drafts ready to talk about and get those out for distribution here this fall.
All right. Thanks, Annette. Did anybody have any questions? Okay. Well, looks like I'm up next. The Program Growth Work Group met on September 8th. Tom Darren, Jim Divas, and Sally. And what we were doing, I wanted us to come back together. I wanted us to go through, we had a document, some of the things on it had changed and were a little out of date. I wanted to get the document up to speed, and it was until, and then there's a couple things on there that changed, I think, as of yesterday. Annette and I found out about it because we thought we had an issue up in Toledo, and I think that's covered now. An operator is actually going to do the third-party thing, which is allowed by federal, the RSA and the federal rules. So we'll see it'll be interesting to see how all that works and how that process works, and we should all, I know I would want to hear from that operator about how all that turns out and get the feedback on all that. And the hope is that, if it goes really well down the road, other operators can do it if they can't necessarily cover the facility, but they can still get a little bit of money coming into them to help with income or something like that. So I think it's the Toledo USPS and VA, I believe that's covered now, because we were concerned that, we were going to have to waive it. So thanks to the operator who took that on. The other thing we went through was the Bureau has asked that we kind of try and do these on a, try and make some of these takeovers line up with the year the contract is going to expire or close to expiring. I know by law, we technically, don't have to wait, but in case and in a couple of these situations, we do have to buy snack machines, so we have to, for example, you heard me talk about OU Athens earlier a little bit, and I've got Sally, can you, I think it'll be faster if you do it, just take a look at that and read the facilities on here and the target year dates, and even if there's a projected amount of income for that particular facility. And I will say, so that when you hear these numbers, and Amy ran reference to it earlier, some of these include buying, some of the numbers include as if we're going to buy the actual beverage machines as well. I don't think all of them do. I think some of them are broke down, but Sally, will you run through that with us so we can?
So some of our current commitments would be facility 398, which is Tom Neal's facility. The rest area up in Ashtabula has been closed, for quite a while now. It's the opening, they were supposed to open for, I think, Memorial Day, then 4th of July. It's now pushed back to late November.
That's ODOT.
So for that, we are able to use equipment from the warehouse. Initial inventory, we're estimating at 1,115. However, I'm not certain that, I don't know that we do that since that's a current facility, correct? Or no? Oh, Lee said it didn't. So I will remove that. Facility 541, which is Portage County, east and westbound, that has been closed for a while. We are going to be putting that with the Youngstown VA post office, I believe, when we post that. But the rest areas are scheduled to be open now in April of 2023. We are able to use most equipment from the warehouse. We may have to purchase one snack machine, but that may change by April as things come in to the warehouse.
And just for my clarification, Sally, that refers to the rest area in Portage County, correct? The highway rest area?
Yes.
I guess it'd be 76?
Uh-huh.
Thank you.
Sure. OU, I'm going to reach out to them here in the next week or two to just set up a touch base. We've kept in contact throughout the year, but we'd like to start meeting, I think, more in person and talk about how we are planning to take over the other half of campus in the summer of 2023. This one is probably our most robust expansion here. We are going to have to purchase snack machines, some sort of card readers. They currently use Blackboard. And those readers are very expensive. They're over $900 a piece. Yeah. So what we are going to try to do is exactly what we've done like at Ohio State, where we're able to use a Cantaloupe card reader that takes credit, debit, and the campus card. And so that's one of the things we need to start talking to OU about is changing that card reader system, because their current card readers don't take credit or debit. So this is going to allow students and staff to have even more flexibility.
And I know we have some numbers on here for.
Again, it's
rough estimate.
This was quite a while ago. We drafted this. We said utilize 5 snack machines from the warehouse, but I'm thinking again that number could change based on what comes back between now and then. But if we're not able to use what we've got, we would need to purchase approximately 33 snack machines, for an approximate $174,900. We would need to purchase 104 Cantaloupe card readers for about $36,400. Initial inventory for that other half of campus, we were estimating at $21,560. Their pouring rights were up, I think, last year, and it was awarded to Pepsi again. And I know, Jim, you've been talking to Laura. Does she still sound like she's going to allow us to use those Pepsi machines?
Yeah, I mean, she's been really accommodating, and they seem very open. They just want to keep the pouring rights agreements with J&J, obviously.
Yep.
And we are.
So that's good. He's got that relationship with the sales rep there, so it sounds like we should be able to use the Pepsi machines there. I'm going to skip Tracy for this exact moment. I'll come back to it. UC, we currently run the snacks everywhere. Their contract expires in June of 2024, and they've agreed to set up kind of a 3-step plan for us. So in August of 2022, we took over 20 beverage machines. So we got all of the Blue Ash campus, the Reading campus, and some additional sites nearby. They're slipping my mind at the moment.
Claremont College?
No.
University of Cincinnati.
It was Hawksworth or
Hawksworth, okay.
Yes, thank you.
The reason I ask this is because Claremont is part of the University of Cincinnati infrastructure, so.
Right, we have snacks
this
and
separate.
beverage there already. In the spring of 2023, we'll be taking over all of the beverage machines on the medical campus. And then in the summer of 2024, we will be taking over all of beverage on main campus. Going back to Tri-C, I have been unable to get a response from them about who their contract was with and how long it would be for, since we had to postpone going in there. They're not real, I don't want to say they're not happy. They're just not real friendly right now, I guess, and I am not sure why. So that's going to be one of the places I'm going to ask our legal team to touch base with their legal team. And then that would be true also for Cincinnati State, where I was unable to get their contract, as I made a public records request in March of 2022. They told me they didn't have a copy of the contract, that they would reach out to the provider to see if they did. And then they've ghosted me. So that'll be a second place that I'm going to ask our legal team to help. Miami University, I don't know recently that we've had any contact with them, so I told Frank I would reach out to Miami University to try to make that initial contact. They have a contract that expires in June of 2024. It's currently Pepsi with the beverages, and the students fill the snacks. And then UT, we're currently on the medical campus. Their beverage contract expires in August of 2025. They currently have Coke. And we are going to ask for snacks to be offered at the same time as the pop. Wright State University, so we're just trying to go in order of when these expire here. Wright State University, their contract with Pepsi expires in June of 2026, and Wright State currently fills all of their own machines.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Listening to this report, Ms. Nunes keeps mentioning that, students fill machines or the university fills machines. And how is that? Why is that a salient point to this discussion?
Mr. Chair? I guess it would just be the telling what's currently happening. We know we have priority there, but it's saying kind of what's happening so that we can plan for the future, and it's just telling us how things are currently being done. I don't think it's anything mindful of whether we're going to do it or not. because we have priority no matter if Santa Claus is coming and filling the machine.
Well, my question, Mr. Chair, is does the Bureau believe that? Or does the Bureau believe that there is a distinction that can forego our priority? I believe that there's nothing that eliminates our priority at a university except not having vending. I think that's the only, which isn't true of other places where we have priority, but universities have been given an exception. If you don't have vending, then there is no priority. But does the Bureau believe that if just because students are filling machines, that affects our priority in any way?
Mr. Chair.
Stop.
I'm currently just going over our list of goals. These are our goals for the upcoming years. We obviously can't take over every campus right this second, so we've kind of prioritized this as a work group. And so what I'm listing is simply what's currently happening. Traditionally, we found that when pouring rights are up, the universities are a lot more willing to work with us than to chop it in half in the contract. But yes, we do believe we have priority at colleges and universities. We just have to be mindful of how many we can realistically take on each year.
So we're at Wright State, or you were going over Wright State, and let's see. Well, I don't think we got to the contract expiration date.
It's June of 2026.
Okay.
Bowling Green, their contract with Coke expires in 2027. We have made contact with them and had some conversation about obtaining the snack and pop. That's another place we're going to keep in touch with them and fit that in, wherever we can. And then Shawnee State, we currently run the snacks, and they do have a contract with Pepsi for the pouring rights that expires in 2029.
And I think we already talked about Cincinnati State.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
What about Columbus State?
Yeah.
That's something that's not on the list, Annette, and maybe it should be. I will remember, and you may remember, I know I had a discussion, this has been several years ago. I talked to Anissa Lott-Hines about it, and Anissa was, what she told me is Columbus State is a political powerhouse. Really? And it may be true, I don't know, but she was, so is Ohio State though too, if we're going to be honest about it. But I think what we were trying to do is go through and get because none of this is easy, but get the, try and go through this and make sure we have precedent before we take on like the, Goliath with political power.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I mean, we do have a footprint in Columbus State because
We do.
assuming she's doing, no, I'm joking. Because and that does one of the campuses, so.
Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
because they're part of the
do
Golden
branch,
Belt.
yeah, I do other branch campuses,
Yeah.
and I don't know if we have anywhere else.
Well, that's something we can check on.
So that might
But
a little bit.
there is a caveat to that. We do not have a BGA with Columbus State.
Right.
We're only there because they share a building with OU Dublin, who we do have a BGA with.
That's true. But still, that helps because they, know who we are at least, and I'm sure she's doing a good job, so they know that we can handle it really well.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I'm just kind of curious. Every university that was mentioned, there is an expiration date for their pouring rights. Are we waiting until that expires in every single instance? Are we not going to pursue those until their pouring rights agreement expires?
Well,
because that's what it sounds like.
Well, we were trying to make sure we had something happening every year. We were trying to make sure, and that's what Sally was saying earlier, that the university seemed more open to working with us when the contract, when their pouring rights agreement is up for some reason. I don't know the reasoning behind that. Universities may have that reason, I don't. And I can't give you an answer. We were just trying to make sure, and the other thing we were trying to make sure is we had something happening in every year and not necessarily in the same area. That it was, that it was across the state, that it wasn't, all Cincinnati or all Columbus, or, that we, and you know what, Sally, I don't know if we hit it, Cleveland State's up in 2024 too, isn't it?
Yes. I don't know. Did I miss it?
Maybe we didn't put it on there, I don't remember if I.
Can we find out when Columbus State's is?
Yeah, we
I've got that information here, actually.
Oh.
They have a snack contract with AVI that's up May 31st of 2033. And Pepsi is up June 30th, 2026. Now, I will say with the snack contract that goes until 2033, that's the same with our contract with OSU. It was like a 15-year contract.
Okay.
But, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
So are these expiration dates the projected, is that like the projected date of when we're going to start pursuing that?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
It's simply information, Dave. Again, our work group has tried to prioritize, and that just seemed like the most logical way right now. But we're also going with the low-hanging fruit right now, the ones that are going to say, yeah, come on in, where some of those harder ones we've got to chip away at.
Well, I just mean, it sounds like if it almost sounds like a timeline, though. Like that's when 4 years from now is when we're going to go after that, when their pouring rights expires.
It's just information, and I won't report that information out next time if that's a problem for.
Oh, no, that's not fair.
Well,
Mr.
no,
Chair,
Sally, I think
That's
what-
not a fair statement.
Yeah, hang on a second. I think what everybody is saying that, and we don't have the money to do them all at once, especially where we have to buy snack machines. We couldn't do them all if we wanted to, like today or next year or whenever. But I think the point they're making, Sally, is by law, that we do have the priority. I was just sitting here talking to Annette about I'm listening to the snack contract until 2023, and I'm going, well, they may have a contract, but I still think our priority would, and I'm not saying we should go do it today, because we would have to, more likely, we're not going to be using their snack equipment, and again, we'd have to purchase it. But I do believe that we do have the priority in that situation, like what you were just describing there. And there's going to be, my hope is, we're going to have to be able in some cases to move in a Kent State kind of, came into our hands. We weren't expecting it. We were, what was that, 2020? We were in a, we had our own problems here, but we still found a way to do it, and it needed to be done. And, maybe some of those will come to us before those target dates. Those are the target dates right now. Yeah, I would like to speed them up. I'd like to go do all of them today, but, we don't have the money, and I'm not making an excuse. They're honestly, anyway.
Well,
and I will keep pushing to, and our work group will keep pushing to go after everything that we can get, as long as we have the money to do it.
Well, Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
just to be clear, I'm not suggesting we do all those today.
I know.
I'm just asking if those dates are kind of hinting at a timeline. And the reason that it makes me think that is because magically the three-phased approach with UC happens to be right when their pouring rights expires.
Well, I don't know that was us. I think that might have been UC's idea. I think we would have loved to have walked in and did it all at one time. And I've told people, I was like, well, I'm glad it's happening. It's great that it's happening. I'm not a fan of the three-pronged approach or three-phased approach either, but it is still happening, and I'm grateful that I think some of that was UC. I don't think that was all our people, you know. But we do have priority at universities. We want to enforce it. We also want to provide great service, and we want to be able to buy the equipment when we need to buy it. So, and I know, Dave, I don't like to wait either.
I'm not suggesting that we don't wait, or that we wait or not wait. I was just asking if this is like a timeline based on when those things expire.
It kind of is. We were trying to, you know, the work group was trying to put some order to it, and the expiration years, and we were also trying to be mindful of our program's budget and not bite off too much at one time. You know, I think we have a couple of things right now that the finalization of the UC in 2024, and I just realized that Cleveland State's beverage thing is up in 2024, and we also have, you know, the Miami University one's up in 2024. Now for that one, we would have to buy snack machines, so I don't know if we would be able to pull that off or not. But it's something we can look at and talk about as a work group and as a committee if needed. So, you know, but I'm honest, I don't like to wait either, but hopefully if we go where we're trying to go, and the goal in all of this is to create more jobs, to create more set aside or service charge revenue. I'm going to call it service charge for the rest of my life. It's never going to change. That's what we want to do. I want us in a position, want the program in a position to where we're taking in, you know, a good amount of service charge, and we can be back to the 2019, 2018, 16, 17 levels where we're not in, you know, where we're not so financially crushed, and if a big project comes up, we have the money at any given year to go do it. We're not there yet. We're doing better than 2020 and 21. So we'll keep working on it. Any other questions about or suggestions about program growth? I'm always open to. All right, not. Oh, well, bear with me 1 second. Need to get back to the, and I know what the next topic is. It's everybody's favorite topic.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, John.
Just one of the things that we're trying to do for statewide is have a discussion of program growth. Just as an FYI.
What is it?
One of the things that we're trying to do for statewide is have a discussion of program growth.
Okay.
And bring speakers in that can help us with that a little bit, like thinking outside the box. Just as an FYI.
Yeah. No, and there's alternative stuff out there. We have, you know, hey, Sally or Amy or Christy or somebody, the stuff, John just reminded me of something outside the box, and this is on me. I think I had this issue last November and I got sidetracked and did not mention this. The coin-operated laundry information you guys sent along with the Word document, I could not get any of that stuff to open. Jim Davis couldn't either. Both of us tried. I'm like, what is wrong? When I tried to do it on the iPhone, all I got was like internet type code or something, whatever it is.
Let me try sending it as a single email instead of as an attachment. That may work. If not, let me know and we'll see.
Yeah, well, you guys, I mean, I meant to say something last fall. I was trying to look at it last fall, and for whatever reason, I forgot. Anyway, with all of that said, we're going to move to the next. Like I said, everybody's favorite topic, because when this is on the agenda, we're going to be here a few minutes. Schaefer distributing issues. And Annette asked me to put this on the agenda. Can you?
Okay.
I'm going to give this to Annette for a minute or two.
Yeah, I just asked for it to be on there because I heard from a couple operators that, and I don't know if we'll, get a lot of solution today, but that Schaefer's back up to their thing where they're not providing as good a service as we'd like to see. The time waits for repairs are long. And people are getting frustrated by that. I've heard from several, I've experienced it myself, they're just starting to take a long time. Now, we all know that Jill left, And Jill, love her or not, she was pretty efficient. And so we just kind of wanted to put it on here and see if there was anything we could do to, help along with that. Kind of get an update from the Bureau's perspective on what you guys might be seeing is happening and go from there.
Mr. Chair,
John first, and then, hold on a second. Chris, did you have a quick question?
I just had a quick question. Could you just clarify what Schaefer is a vendor? Is that correct?
Schaefer does all of our maintenance and repair, moving and storage for our vending machines. They also subcontract out any other repairs they're the one source fits all for all of our maintenance and repair issues.
Okay, thanks for that clarification.
Okay. John?
So Sally and Chris and Greg are going to hate what I'm going to say, but I'm going to say it anyways. So you guys are, and excuse me what I'm going to say, but you guys are complaining that your staff is overworked. And yeah, you're telling us we need to contact you guys to put a ticket in. Well, that would save you guys a lot of work if we did it ourselves. So I don't understand why we're still having to call you guys to put a ticket in for fixing a machine with Schaefer's.
Madam Chair, Madam
Yes.
Vice Chair.
Yes.
Sorry, old habits die hard. So funny you should mention that, John. We were having that discussion as well. I think we're open to looking at doing some things differently. And maybe that's one of them. We've had a sit down with Schaefer and they kind of explained their side of it, but things we have not seen. I'm looking at my crew, a change. As with a lot of companies, they're talking about the retention and employee status, which, okay, but you have a contract with us. We can talk to legal about looking at the contract and what are some of our remedies. But, I think when discussing this, when we saw it on the agenda, one of the things is maybe it's time for another sit down and we would invite, one or two members from the committee to come be part of that meeting so that Schaefer can hear not just from us, but from the direct customer. Annette or John or anybody wanted to join that, we could schedule something for all of us to sit down with Schaefer and try to work some things out, so.
And it could even be over Teams if
Yeah,
somebody
Teams,
non-local.
But that's kind of where we're hearing the same things, and it's good that the operators are sharing those complaints with our staff so that we can be aware and make sure we have our list of issues that we continue to bring up with Schaefer. But we're kind of feeling like it's time for another meeting, and we would like you guys to be involved if you want to with that next meeting.
Absolutely.
Madam Vice Chair?
Yes.
So, with all due respect, we have these meetings almost every year, and things get better for a couple of months, and then they go back to where they were.
Yep.
So, it's just a comment, I'm not trying to lay blame on anybody or anything, but we've had this conversation every year almost, since I've been around.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
John, I agree with you. The reason we contract with the company is so that they can handle the business and take care of it. So it is annoying when we have to sit down every so often, but it's part of the job and we'll do it. And, if this goes well, this next meeting, maybe that's just something, we have a quarterly meeting with them and it's some of you guys, some of us, and we kind of lay all our cards on the table and we hear back from them and see how it goes going forward. So that's kind of what we were thinking. I don't know what the group thinks of that. So,
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to be part of it. If they're talking about putting together a meeting with a few folks from the committee. I'd like to be part of it. Also, would it be worth looking at, and I mean, we talk a lot out of the box, and this is probably a few years down the road, and I don't know what the Bureau's thoughts would be. Obviously, we would have to get a lot of answers before anyone would commit to anything, but there are states that have their own service providers. They are state employees. They work for the SLA, which increases your cost on one end, it puts your staff expenses higher, but you're not subcontracting it out. They actually work at, instead of paying all that time and travel and all that by the hour, you're paying the employee by the hour. And I'm wondering if that's something we should maybe think about and look at. and see how other, because I know there are states that do that. They have 1, 2, depending on how large their state is. Would that be something the committee and the Bureau would be interested in pursuing, to look at?
Very much so.
Yeah, Mr. Chair. Yeah, if you can let us know who those states are so that we can reach out and get some information, and we can look at do a cost comparison and,
Yeah.
see what that looks like. But yeah, I mean, we're open to other ideas, so.
I don't know what they do as far as parts and, that type of stuff,
Yeah.
but it's worth peeping at.
Mhm.
You probably have to order them from Schaefer, wouldn't
Safer.
We can't cut them totally out of the process, right?
Yeah.
Mr. Chair,
Vendor exchange, we would hope.
Yes, Derek.
and another resolution to solve some of the issues that we have with Schaefer is to eliminate a single source provider, which we did used to do, and I know it's been said that there's bureaucratic reasons that we're unable to have more than one service provider, but I don't believe that barrier is insurmountable, and I wish there was some way that we could have more than one service provider, and not just for service, but for all of the aspects that Schaefer all the aspects of our work that Schaefer handles.
Yeah,
Service, repair, storage, and moving.
Yeah, to your, well, Derek, I do agree, I think, with storage being centralized in one location, because I know we used to have storage, well, let me say this, to your point, what you're talking about, I know when I first came into this, had my first facility, if you were up in the Akron, Canton, Cleveland area, a lot of times, they would use A&A vending to do service calls. Now we still had Schaefer there if it was something A&A couldn't get fixed or couldn't, or it was something they really couldn't work on. Schaefer was still involved, but on a more limited. And it was the same thing, a little different down in Cincinnati. Schaefer was still there, but a lot of the work in the Cincinnati and probably even Dayton area was done by Area Wide. And there were times Schaefer was required, or, they were necessary, but we didn't have to call them for everything. And yeah, you still had issues where sometimes a machine didn't get fixed right. That's, it's just depends on who the service tech is and all that type of stuff. But it saved on mileage.
Saved on downtime for operators, which is the biggest concern.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, we rarely talk about the cost to the program, but we rarely talk about to the direct impact to operators' ability to serve their customers and the detriment that has on the bottom line for individual operators. Sometimes it's damn near devastating.
So they're going to work on putting a meeting together with Schaefer, and we're going to have some OVRC people involved, and is that?
Yep. That's where we are.
Okay.
Do it again. Sometimes that kicks them into shape for a little while when we've done that in the past. And like John says, you usually got to do it. And Sally's mentioned the same thing. Every now and then you need to have a little bit of a meeting and kind of light a fire under them. And
My dad used to call it, it's to come to Jesus.
yeah. That's exactly it.
Mr. Chair,
Josh.
I like Greg's idea of having a quarterly meeting, and maybe that would avoid some more problems.
We were supposed to do that, and I don't know what happened. I guess no one just forgot to schedule or something.
Yeah, but it's getting worse.
It is.
Well, I was going to say, Schaefer probably doesn't want to do a quarterly meeting.
Yeah.
Likely not.
That's, Tom and I met last time with them, and it just, we were supposed to meet every now and then, and I don't know.
Well, Tom was telling me, and this has been, I don't know, maybe it was last month or something, Tom Newell was, we were talking about Schaefer and, some of a little bit of the issues that I said, do you want to be a part of trying to help? And he goes, I guess I would, but I might shoot myself.
I can appreciate that.
Yes.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
What is is there like a standardized opinion on us having spare parts Because I've gotten the impression over the last several years that we're not like supposed to have any spare parts. I had Schaefer relieve me an extra coin mech several years ago, and it was a big deal apparently.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
we have plenty, Dave, right now that I've had run through the shop, so if you need some more, just...
Well, I'm if I have a spare DBA or a spare coin mech, things like that, or even light bulbs aren't so much of a problem with LEDs now, but even a spare light bulb or something, I can avoid service calls. I minimize them whenever possible.
That's not a problem. Just let your consultant know exactly what you need and we'll make a way to get it to you.
Sometimes when we're pulling a machine or something, especially if it's getting salvaged, I always try to stack the coin mech as long as everybody's okay with it.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Chair.
Derek?
Oh, no, I know.
Okay. Well, I was going in order. I heard.
Yeah, members first, always.
I was gonna say, actually, we used to be able to do so, and it was just, Dave was right, a few years ago, because I always kept coin mechs, and if they went bad, I'd go and I'd exchange them at Schaefer. I'd actually go up there and say, here's a bad coin mech, and they'd give me a good one that we had there in stockpile, and we'd do it out, and we were told to stop that we couldn't do that type of stuff anymore.
Do you know who told you that by any chance?
Everybody.
Yeah, that was
Everybody.
the bureau. It was in an OVRC meeting, and we had a discussion about it, and it was a few years back, and they said there was something to do with the billing, where there was part of the contract because it was parts and not maintenance, or I don't remember all the justification of it, but we were told, stop that, don't do that no more. So,
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
I think what the whole thing was, there was an operator asking if, and I don't remember the whole circumstance, but it was, they sent a coin mech back and they wanted that exact coin mech back. And Schaefer had issues like tracking it, switching them out isn't a big deal. They were just having trouble saying, because they kind of just all get in a big pile for their text to go through. So they were having trouble tracking like an exact coin mech. And then I know that there was one point early in the pandemic, excuse me, where we were low on coin mechs, but that is not the case anymore. So if it's a coin mech or DBA or something like that, we can certainly get it to you as long as you let your consultant know.
Are those tracked at all with any kind of number?
We're billed by serial number.
So it sounds like they can keep track of it at least minimally. I got a whole bin full of older dumb mechs and older DBAs from like when I had a route up here, and I used to just go take the whole bin to Schaefer and exchange it for different ones when they would refurbish them.
Did you call it a dumb mech?
Yeah, the dumb ones that
Yeah, you have to unscrew the whole thing.
three tubes and
Fill it.
Yep, I still have one of them.
I do too, I think. Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
I know there's been issues with when we call in old service calls with people calling in frugal ones or ones that are not appropriate to call in. You know, I would be okay with the Bureau refusing specific individuals from doing that because they're making a bad for everybody else. But I don't think that should hurt all that.
Mr. Chair, I think, I wouldn't want to get into, we have a do not, a do not call list.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, no, and how do you end up on the list and how do you get off the list? I think we are really open to having, looking at having you guys do your service calls again.
We talked about a pilot.
Yeah, like maybe can we pick an area, see how it goes,
Toledo.
Columbus.
We'll let you guys tell us.
Where's Gainesville?
And do it, and just see how it goes and monitor, and some of it's pandemic related, but the costs were way down and it did save some money there, so, but I do agree that it's one thing that maybe we can shift some of the workload or a duty or a task. So if you guys want to give us let us know, we'd love to try it out in an area for a month or two and see how it goes and then,
And Mr. Chair, again, I think there needs to be conversation. I know it would be easy for you guys to call in, but if we were, if a pilot, let's talk about like an email, so there's documentation that then we're copied on as well, that it's a document trail, that would be very helpful.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Well, when we used to call our own service calls in, now, I would imagine Schaefer probably gets, they've told me themselves they get really minimal information and it's hard to run a service call 100 miles away when you're not even really sure what the problem's going to be. And the more people a service call passes through, the more chance there is for the information to get mixed up or left out.
Yep.
And the consultants don't have like a standardized questionnaire for the service calls, or at least it's not been my experience if there is one. I would prefer to call my own service calls in too, but the email sounds like a good idea because you would have all the information, you would be able to follow it.
But it gives a paper, sorry.
Yeah,
It gives us a paper trail so that if something doesn't get done or they're like, we didn't know, it's like, no. The consultant called you on this day, here's our, the tracking. So I think, it's probably a discussion about a group because we need to put some parameters, like what would the process be for that. But again, we would love to try it out as a pilot and
maybe
see if we can get it to work and
maybe
get it to work. But
maybe we
work
need something like a service call form or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I know for me, sometimes it depends on what it is or how complicated it is. Sometimes it's easier to call somebody and say, this machine isn't doing X, Y, Z, and I don't know why.
Maybe, so Mr. Chair, like maybe in the meeting with Schaefer, find out what kind of exact information Schaefer would need, and then we could have a form that everybody could just fill out an email or something.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Chair?
Wait a second, John.
Sorry.
No, go ahead, John, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, a way to get around that is to email in our ticket and CC the consultant.
We're gonna give them the ticketing stuff. Let us have access to that, where we can just put in the
That's
ticket
it.
like the consultants do.
Yeah. Sounds like your efficiency work group and that has
Yes. We'll put you on that. I like it. It'll be a fun work group.
All right.
I think Derek.
Yeah, Derek would.
Huh?
He forgot.
You covered it all. Everybody covered it all. Way to steal my thunder, guys. No, I was about to say, a second point would be, I think this is an efficiency work group thing, yeah. And then my first statement was going to be about, we need to notify operators as to what their options are currently, because clearly people don't know what their options are in terms of spare parts. And I think a great thing to do it statewide is, I think there's still a bunch of operators who don't necessarily know how to swap out DVAs and coin mechs and so forth. I think we've really got to start looking hard at operators being able, for their own benefit, to be able to do those kinds of things. I think we need to make them aware of what the options are, but we also need to offer some upper mobility training to ensure that they're able to make use of those options.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
tag teaming on that, maybe that could be a statewide topic.
Or training.
Training.
That's up to our statewide work group, so I'm going to leave that up to them.
That is something we were looking at, yes.
Or an upward mobility training, just not anything to do with statewide. It could be a separate.
Either one.
It actually probably should be separate from that.
Well, we actually had a training, it was quite a few years ago at Schaefer about how to clean coffee machines and take them apart and things like that.
It might even, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, it could even be worth the expense of having an individual tutorial that's dedicated to the equipment that an operator is using. Spending a day with a tech. I mean, I know it would be costly up front, but in the long run, maybe that's very valuable, a very valuable day spent. I don't know, something to look at, though.
All right.
Okay. Well, I think we teed up Schaefer pretty good. The next thing on the agenda is monthly operating report. And I think, is that you, Christy?
Mr. Chair, it is. You know, we've talked about the receipt verification back and forth. Again, I think further conversation needs to happen. But in the meantime, what we are going to be doing is, again, we look at the monthly reports. If there is a anomaly on a report, we're going to go to that individual and ask them for backup documentation or to explain the anomaly, which is what you guys suggested before, and we're going to be doing that.
Good.
But you might be hearing from people saying, you know, they're asking me for a receipt. And again, it will be because there is a definite anomaly. And you know, our staff are asking questions, and sometimes there is extremely legitimate reasons why there is an anomaly, like you know, a massive repair bill for a vehicle. There is, you know, or you know, some anomaly, and then we document that in the e-web and we move on. But at least then when OBM or someone comes in and they ask, you know, what's this anomaly, we can at least show them, yep, we followed up and here's where it's at. So that's what we're doing right now. Just wanted to put that out there.
Mr. Chair, in my opinion, that's basically what we've been asking you to do
Yep.
all these years.
So my only issue is if someone screams that we're, you know, targeting them, but we'll see how this works. I don't want anyone to say that we're targeting someone specifically. That's the backside of that.
Mr. Chair,
Derek.
I think that's a fabulous idea, but to bolster the legitimacy of it, I think that the local, at least the local committee, or at least the chair of the committee, or somebody needs to be informed when such events occur. I think that would help the situation that Christie's fearful of.
Well,
If the local selection panel is involved in understanding that that's going to happen, I think that maybe, I don't want to say gives them more cover, but essentially that's, I suppose, what I'm saying.
Mr. Chair, I agree with that. I think the
So
local
I
committee
do.
should be involved. So we can involve the local committee when anomalies are found, and that we're going to be following up with individuals about their MOR.
Mr. Chair, the only question I would have with that is what kind of anomaly constitutes the necessity to be supported with a receipt? I mean, does it have to be a certain dollar amount? How big does it have to be?
So, Mr. Chair, again, we could talk about standards and establishing standards, but we can't, you know, I can give you some generic examples right now where, you know, again, a person had multiple facilities and they put the exact same sales tax. And again, they admit, oh, it was a mistake. Let me fix that. Okay, we're fixing that. Another person where they had a drastic reduction of inventory, or someone who has triple the cost of goods. Again, maybe there is a legitimate reason for that. But when it jumps significantly, we're going to be asking questions.
And Mr. Chair, I think the term receipt's been used as a general term. It may not be a receipt. Again, it may just be talking to the individual and they say, oh, here's what happened, this is why, or it was input in OBG incorrect, or I had the car repair bill, here you can see and it's not necessarily a jump in a dollar amount, you know, if it's something that's a pattern or a repeat of, you know, like you had the same sales tax at all three of your facilities 3 months in a row, you know, help us understand. Yeah, it's not, and again, it wasn't anything nefarious or it was when they entered it in OBG and it got divided. So I hear and I understand the concern about what does it mean. You know, the examples are wide ranging, and we probably could sit here for an hour and a half and come up with different things. So we don't have it. There's no standard. There's no It's just if something is like, that's way different than what they've been reporting all year on this, or this is, it's higher than what other people have reported, or it's the same thing. So that's kind of what we're looking at, and it's not simply a receipt. It's, if we should say, documentation or conversation with the person.
I just say, I like it, I think it's great, and let's just roll with it. If we see there's a problem, we can always come back and address it, but I think this is what we've been asking the Bureau to do, so let's do it.
And I think, sorry.
You're fine.
And, I think what Derek and Christy were talking about with letting the local committee know, that will help, the local committee person, one of them may go, oh, no, this is what's, like, they may already know what the issue is, or give some guide, So I think that's twofold, too, of the heads up and, we might get some further information on the situation, so.
All right. Anything else on that? Okay. Next item on the agenda is facility 450.
What's that?
Facility 450. Is that you, Christy?
So it is, and I don't know, do you guys want to talk about it first? Or do you want me to talk about it?
Can you give us some detail first?
Let her do
Which facility is 450
we'll
first of
get
all?
into that.
So facility 450 is Wood County southbound 71. The operator there has struggled the last couple years. In April, I personally went with Sally. I mean, they've been struggling. It was horrible, the condition of it. Plus, the caretaker complained, but it was empty machines, again, expired stuff. We can't find out exactly because of the type of pop machine, the condition of the pops, always a sign on the coffee machine. And again, he has one side of it. The other side's run by another operator. And so a PIP was drafted. Sally and Lynn worked with Annette and Frank. And we even took feedback from them to make it, a doable PIP. There was a specific time frame, like the PIPs are written, like you have X amount.
It was like 90 days, I think.
Right, but then there was even a first part that he didn't meet, but we still did the whole 90 days. We got this guy a job coach, another operator. Lynn went out weekly to look at it, to report back. There was weekly calls with the local committee, which again, it's Annette and Frank, because Toledo only has one. They even met the operator, the wife of the operator, Annette, Frank, and Lynn met. What support we can get. I mean, unfortunately, this guy, he's got, I don't know if it's a medical issue or what, but he's just not, and he doesn't have the supports. He has one employee who is an elderly man, and I'll be honest, he was not taking advice, taking feedback from the coach and consultant. So it was determined at the end of the 90 days he did not meet it. Frank and Annette wanted it to be extended for 15 more days. Let's give them another opportunity. We did so. Still no improvement. And so the local committee met, and Frank and Annette abstained for making that decision. And so kind of putting it just on the Bureau on what happens next. One of my issues is that, again, we fought, we worked on these rules, and that you guys were absolutely a part of the PIP process, and it was important. At this point, we don't want to remove him. We're fine. If you guys are fine with the poor service that's representing, I mean, it shouldn't be on us to just have to be the bad guys to say we're going, and it sucks. No one wants to remove anyone. Let me put that out. Didn't want to move Jerry Spicer years ago. Didn't want to move Kevin Wilford. We want, the whole PIP process is to help people get back. And there are different reasons where people are not you know, I understand like if people have money issues, that might be a problem, and that's, I don't think this guy's problem. It's more of a cognitive thing, we think, but it's still, it sucks. And, you know, I think that it is a service level issue. You know, I've said this before. If I'm coming from Michigan and that's my first rest stop I stop on 75 South, I'm probably not stopping at another rest area in Ohio. I just, and then we went there this week. And again, it was more filled than what it was in April, but there were repeats, like
5 rows of Lay's salt and vinegar.
Tiki or Taki.
The Takis. There were probably 7 rows of Takis in a machine. There would be items like multiple items in a coil, so there'd be a whole row of, I don't know, say Twix or something, but a pack of crackers in front of it. So to get the Twix, somebody would have to buy the pack of crackers.
Peppermint patty, multiple rows of peppermint
it was
patty.
just, and you know, things were, it didn't look good. And so up in the top row, which is usually chips, there were pastries up there, and then snacks down in the bottom row where it's usually pastries. I mean, it's just all over the place, and I don't know.
And if he had support, like there was one minute where, okay, maybe his son can help him, and I think he did 1 week and that was the end. So he doesn't have supports either. So we're at a pickle right now, you know?
Mr. Chair?
Sure.
If it was mentioned, I missed it. Has VR been involved in this at all?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
VR.
Has VR been involved in this at all?
So we've suggested to him, to open up a case. I just
Cleveland
don't-
Site Center was contacted to
Correct.
try and help.
Oh, okay. No, good. That's all good, yeah.
Yeah.
If he doesn't want to,
Like,
if he doesn't want to play ball, he doesn't want to play ball.
You can't help someone who doesn't
Yeah,
recognize the need for help. Like,
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I feel obligated to throw some stuff in here. First of all, I will say the Bureau, everything that they've just said is absolutely, completely true. There's ongoing issues. The program has bent over backwards to assist. Done everything that I could think of, I believe that Frank was able to think of to help. From the consultant to Christy to Sally, it just all the way around. A job coach offered a second job coach when that one didn't work out. Did VR services, this and that. I know myself, and Frank will be able to speak for himself when he wants to, when push came to shove, because this is a long-term operator, somebody who's done an excellent job for a long time in the program, and is now facing what's obviously some kind of disability, some kind of cognitive disability. None of us are qualified to diagnose it, but you know there's something wrong. I've spoke to him several times. I know Frank has. There's something wrong there. And I know when I abstained from voting that put the program into a pickle. I know it did. I could not bring myself to remove somebody because of a disability. I know that's bad for the program, but I spend a whole lot of time advocating for folks with disabilities, and I could not see because of this, and I don't know where that leads with things, but I just personally was unable to vote. I could not vote that he had successfully completed the plan, but I wasn't able to, because of someone's disability, take them out either. So, like I said, I know that's bad for the program, and I apologize because I feel like I didn't possibly do the job I was supposed to do, but I couldn't do it.
Mr. Chair, like how much, like were the job coaches trying to work with his employee at all? I mean, if he's.
Yes.
Is that how?
Can I answer that?
how helpful was the employee?
Not very. The job coach that tried to work with the employee and suggest the employee do this stuff, the operator that was job coaching has 37 years experience.
Yeah.
Or, has been an operator over 37 years. And the employee said, and the job coach even offered to help train the employee, and the employee said, I don't need any training, I know everything, to which my response was, when Sally or Lynn or whoever told him that, and I went, yeah, no, he doesn't, because if he did, he wouldn't be saying something like that, because there's always something to learn.
I mean, I don't know, I've said it before.
Yeah, but this employee, and I think that's part of, I'm not saying it is, there's an issue with, the operator has some kind of, like Annette said, disability that has came on and some type of health issue. And the employee could help, and in fact, if I went back and in one of the job coach's reports that he provided to, Sally and Lynn and Annette and I, he basically went down the road of, it doesn't appear anybody in the operator's family is helping. His wife, I think, was out there maybe one time, and she had said, and as Christy said, they offered to, the consultant offered to get him a different job coach. And they said it didn't have to be the same job coach, they would find somebody else. And it was his wife who said, well, if he's going to get through this, his family's going to have to get him through it. We also, Annette and I, and even Sally and Lynn had advocated, hey, you guys really need to get a case opened for, get a case open with BSVI. Annette's hope and my hope as well was if they could get a case open, and I know this is where Derek was going, there would be some evaluation. There's something wrong here that our program doesn't know how to assist him with, and I felt like I was like when I'm like, one of my problems here is I don't know how to help him, and if we can't find the appropriate help for him, that's not his fault. But it's something that I'm not saying program, I'm saying me personally, or professionally, however you want to look at it. So there's some issues there. But where I was going with it was the job coach even said in one of his reports, with the right help or the right employee or the right support, this operator can do this. And unfortunately, he doesn't have that for whatever reason.
Has it affected, paperwork being submitted on time or anything?
No, his paperwork's been, the program, that they can do it, but there's some support there.
The son is doing the MORs and things.
Has anybody tried to talk to his son?
Well, we talked to his wife.
Whoever's doing the reports on time, that's probably who we might want to try talking to.
I feel like Lynn has talked to him and he, I don't know if it was he didn't have time. I don't recall.
He has his own job career.
There has to be some communication there, though, because he's getting the information to turn in.
Lynn just messaged me. She said his brother does the report, but he lives in Cleveland.
Okay.
Oh, wow, so he's not going to be much.
Yeah.
I thought it was his wife.
And his wife works full-time.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
Derek?
What's the status now? Annette, you talked about your decision to vote or not vote. What has been the process in terms of the disposition of his POA? Where are we at with him through that process? And is the committee, is the Bureau asking the committee today? Clearly.
So, Mr. Here,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I know. I know where you're going.
I'm trying to be delicate and everything.
Yeah, no, it is. And so you got to talk. And so where we're at is, the process is supposed to be the combined effort of the local committee and the Bureau. And there's 3 people on the panel. We all agreed, and that's how we would do the rules, or through the rules process, the PIP reviews, and then a decision at the end about successful completion of the pit. And without votes, you know, and it's not, this is going to come out harsher than it sounds, but it kind of dumped it in Sally's lap. And not a collaborative effort or a combination or a group decision. So, you know, with that being said, in the nature of what happened, we're not comfortable. We don't want it to be the de facto just let the Bureau decide when we set up a process that's supposed to be collaborative. And so at this point, you know, it's your program too. And if you guys are, you know, comfortable and fine with them staying in there, you know, we've kept checking on them, but, you know, we're not going to be in the position of ending up being the sole decision maker on something that is set up to be a group decision, I guess is the shortest answer.
Mr. Chair, can I ask about the details of that? I mean, so what's required is well, how did the vote go? Was it 2 against 1?
It was abstain. The 2 abstained. The local committee abstained.
Okay, I see the problem now. I don't think you can abstain. I don't think you can abstain from that kind of thing.
And Madam, Mr. Chair, I mean, it's twofold. It's this specific issue, but going forward, being put in a similar situation and looking at the rules and saying that's the crux right here, like Derek just said.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Has ODOT complained yet at all?
We've not gotten any complaints recently from them. But, and again, the driving public, it's a different complaint thing. I will tell you, it's a rest area, it's a brand new rest area. I hold my breath. I hope the governor or some dignitary does not stop there or complain. And stuff like that, you know, I will tell you, we got a complaint through our legislative liaison 2 weeks ago that a legislator got a complaint from a university president on a regional campus that they want snack service and their machine was empty. Now, it was a legitimate reason. We were swapping out the machines and we handled that legitimate reason why it was empty. We were swapping out machines like 2 days later. But it's stuff like that does worry me that, you know, and sometimes people blame ODOT when there's bad service. They blame, you know, Opportunities for Ohioans with Disabilities and the Business Enterprise Program.
So, Mr. Chair, if I may, I'm not sure technically I know what to say. The solution to the problem is the members who've chosen to abstain from the vote should probably recuse themselves. I don't know. I don't honestly know the technicalities of what's appropriate, but it seems the reasonable thing to do, especially since one of the members of the panel is filling in because there's an empty seat there. I think if you're unwilling to participate in the decision, you have to recuse yourself. I really do believe you have to recuse yourself. I don't think there's any allowance for abstention from a vote like that. I think you recuse yourself because you're unwilling to make the decision that has to be made.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So if his paperwork is being submitted on time, and it sounds like even if there's 7 rows of twigs, there's really only 3 or 4 of each because there's left twigs and right twigs.
I just use example.
That's a technicality.
But really, are the rules really strict about what happens after an unsatisfied pit? I mean, are there any actual rules being broke at this point? It sounds like just from a visual standpoint, the machines might not be that appealing, but is he really breaking any rules?
Mr. Chair, the rule specifically says, and I've got it up, the local selection panel will evaluate whether the operator cured the violations within the designated timeframe. The local selection panel shall be provided all available requested information to assist with making the evaluation. The local selection panel will determine by majority vote whether or not the terms of the performance improvement plan have been satisfied or whether to extend the time frame to cure the violation. If the local selection panel determines that the operator does not cure the violations within the time frame, BSVI director may terminate the operator's BOA as noted in 12106 of the administrative code.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I think I do know the technicalities. The selection panel has no choice but to make a decision. They're obligated by that language to make a decision. You have to vote yes or no. You can't abstain, but you can recuse yourself. And if you're uncomfortable making the decision yes or no, you are entitled to recuse yourself, certainly, but if you choose to take on the responsibility, you have to make a decision.
Mr. Chairman.
John?
And the committee actually made a decision because there is a majority vote already there.
No, there's not. They abstained. They didn't vote.
Well, the other person voted, and so there was one person that voted, and that's the majority. I mean, I agree with you that they can't abstain, but...
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I did not vote because I didn't know what to do in that situation.
Oh.
So I said I need to take it back to Greg and Christie. I don't know what to do if I've got two people that abstained. I mean, I can definitely tell you how I would have voted.
I'll be honest with you, I have no problem with recusing. And that's why, we came to the committee here, we wanted some assistance with it and wanted to kind of knock it around too. And I'm glad Christine asked for it to be on the agenda here because it needed to be knocked around. I know myself, sadly enough, I've been involved in these before and I've had zero problem. I won't say zero, it's always a bad thing, but when it's an operator just being lazy and not doing what they're obligated to do, I've not had a problem with doing what needed to be done and saying you didn't fulfill your PIP. But I just had a hard time with this one because it's a disability related issue, not a blindness issue by no means, but a disability related issue, and it's not something I was able to do. And you guys are probably right. Maybe the thing I should have done and can still do is recuse myself from the committee.
Mr. Chair, could you temporarily, like suspend him for a while to say you need to go to the hospital and figure out what the problem is with your health and have someone, step in and temporarily help him out. If you got an operator that can go in that area.
Bless you.
What?
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
We bounced that stuff around.
Did you?
We really did, and they actually seemed kind of unwilling to do so. In fact, in your area, we know, and you're aware, we have an operator who has not done much with their facility for quite some time, for over a couple of years now, and but it's still been being covered. And so it hasn't come up as a problem. This person still wants to work. He wants to keep filling his machines and doing a job and providing an income for his family and all that. So it's a challenge. There's nothing to force them to step away for a little bit. But it was talked about.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Maybe I don't know what the original violations actually were, because violations makes it sound more serious.
It's that catch-all professional manner thing, which I've never liked to start with, but it's needed.
This doesn't sound, it doesn't sound to me like it's anything really specific or directly against any rule.
So, Mr. Chair, again, empty machines, not filled machines, dirty machines, out of operation machines.
Did the numbers reflect that?
Huh?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, I apologize. That was deeply unprofessional.
What did you say? I'm sorry.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
do the numbers reflect the poor performance? I mean, are the sales reported drastically lower than the same facility across the street, or are we close? I would be interested to know that. I think that could help satisfy some question about how bad is the performance of the operator of the facility.
Mr. Chair, I can answer that. Because I monitored the sales, and that was my question there at the beginning of all this, is, well, something must be okay because there's still some sales here. I will say, by comparison, not to the one across this road, because I don't like comparing it that way, but by comparing to previous years prior to the pandemic, the pandemic kind of throws a wrench into the whole thing in comparison. They're not coming up to the level like some of the other rest areas have been. They're still staying pretty low, like pandemic-ish numbers. I don't have the exact number here, but I know I've been monitoring them.
So it does indicate there's a problem.
I would say
There's
that, but there
definitely-
are some sales there, and that's where I went when this whole thing first started. It's like, well, something must be okay because there's sales there. Somebody's buying some stuff, but it is down.
People love salt and vinegar.
Yeah.
Apparently.
And Takis.
What is, okay, sorry. What is I'm sorry.
I don't know what it is.
It's kind of like a rolled up tortilla chip with some
It
spice
looks,
on it.
yeah, it looks like penne pasta, but it's a tortilla chip.
Spicy Frito.
Oh,
Yeah, basically.
They're delicious.
They don't sell.
They like them on Orange is the New Black.
Sorry, thank you. I've heard
Did
it
you say
now.
orange is the new black?
Yeah, we liked it on that show.
I thought
It
it
was
was a
one of
dessert.
their demands when they rioted.
Just for context, I wanted to add that, one of the reasons that I chose not to vote was that this operator is showing up for work. This operator is filling machines. Granted, there's some issues with that. I believe those are some medical issue that has occurred or that is ongoing or something like that. And this isn't an operator just going, I'm not going to my facility today because I don't feel like it. And my other hope was if they had got and I don't know if they ever did get a case open with BSVI, was if there was going to be some evaluation or something, maybe, OOD would have had a division that could have helped, or maybe ask for some, cooperation from another state agency that would have been able to assist him in the other area other than vision, where there clearly is, and I don't know what the problem is, but we have a general idea of what it is, but I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to go there. Anyway, with all of that said, if we need to, Ned said she would recuse herself, and I know I can appoint somebody in Ned's place and probably appoint someone in my place as well. I have the ability to do that. So my question to the committee is, do we have any volunteers?
Yeah.
I would ask after the meeting.
Okay.
I don't want to necessarily
Yeah.
put someone out there.
Yeah, that's true. Never mind. Well, I'll talk to you. We can talk about that in a little while if need be.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I wouldn't want to be you for all the talking.
Oh my God.
And his machines.
That we're discussing, but I think it's important that a decision be made. And I think that you and Annette, I'll make this personal, and I hate doing this, but if you and Annette, in good conscience, can't say that the PIP's been met, you have an obligation to vote your beliefs. And that does, based on the way that the rule is set up, that does squarely place the burden on Greg as to what to do with that information. So you have that, at least. Now, recusing yourself is fine, you can do that, but now you've got a bigger problem. Now, what does your conscience allow you to do in terms of who you replace yourselves with? I mean, Frank, you're the one that has that decision. So I would be wary if I were you of how you proceed with this. And I wouldn't want to be Greg either when this decision gets made. This is a difficult one, but it is one that's important. I mean, this really is important. Christy, sometimes Christy can be hyperbolic, but she's not. I don't believe being hyperbolic in this situation. This can be very detrimental to our program if it's not handled. And I feel for the gentleman, and I know exactly who it is now, and I feel for him, and I love him to death. And maybe once Greg's placed in a certain position to make the decision he would have to make, maybe that'll get his creative juices flowing to maybe figure out a way to help the guy. I don't know. But don't allow too many shenanigans to go on with the process, is my suggestion.
So,
Please.
Mr. Chair, one thing that Derek said that I'm confused about is, and help me, it was a 3-year process, but why is it on Greg? I think the last rule, there was that ultimately it was Greg's decision on a PIP,
Well, it
but we
says
took
Greg-
that out.
It says may.
It says Greg may or may
Yeah,
not
that's
terminate
true.
the
That's
BOA.
true.
So he's the one that ultimately decides whether the BOA
I have
is
to put the
terminated.
pen to paper at the
Got
end
it,
of the day.
that's right,
Yeah.
okay.
But he doesn't make that decision until the decision by the local panel is that the PIP wasn't followed, and then Greg's obligation kicks in.
And it-
He may or may not.
Yeah, it says may, it
terminate the
doesn't say
BOA.
shall.
But, Mr. Chair.
I wouldn't want to be anybody in this situation. I feel bad for all of you having to make the decision. But you can't duck out. You just can't.
Mr. Chair, I can see that a decision probably needs to be made, but I mean, there's obviously still some sales there. And I just, I don't know if there's any way to postpone it and hope for some improvement or something. I don't know. I don't think we should be hasty in making it.
Unfortunately, Mr. Chair, it's already at the point it has to be made. That's the point of all this. The time for the decision is here. You know, it is here.
Mr. Chairman,
So I'm gonna ask Greg or Christie, did you guys want the full committee to weigh in on this? Was that the?
So, sorry, Mr. Chair, we were bringing it to the committee because we're sitting here with a rule and a process that we set up and it didn't get executed. And I was not willing to then go my own way, so to speak, and make a decision. You know, that we have a process in place for a reason, and, you know, I wasn't gonna go rogue in this, and we wanted to bring it to talk to the group to see, you know, this is what happened, you know, and we're not gonna be the sole decision maker in this, and so, you know, if the group wanted to let him go, okay, but then the next discussion would be, we need to look at this process, because, you know, we want to work with you guys on this, but, you know, we have to all play our part in it, and if we're not willing to, then we need to look at what the process is, or maybe we help write the PIP, help monitor, work with you guys, and maybe then it's 3 committee members do the vote at the end of the day. I don't know, we were in a spot where we were sitting there like, we don't know what to do right now. And that's why we wanted to bring it to the group to talk about and figure out and see, what do we do? How do we take the next step, or what is the next step?
Mr. Chair.
Oh,
wow.
I wasn't in there, just saying that.
I was just gonna say that the Bureau absolutely has done the correct thing with this. What Greg said was true, they did not have just make. Somebody needs to mute.
Hey, I don't know who's talking. I need you to mute *6.
Oh. Thank you.
There you go. Yeah, they actually did the right thing. What happened I don't know if Frank and I did the right thing, but the Bureau has done the right thing in this. Bringing it to the committee was absolutely the proper thing that should have been done when things come up, that, we don't know what to do with. They shouldn't just decide it on their own. Bringing it to this group was the perfect thing to be done with it. So that's all I wanted.
Did I thought I heard Dave Paget.
Yeah, I think I was the last of the group. But I was gonna say, does this operator understand he's going to, be losing his job?
I can't, if you want my honest answer, I don't think so.
Well, I mean, you can't, I don't think, can you force someone to go to hospital?
No.
Say either, Joe, Mike, Frank, or if it's a female, whatever, say, this is the end of the road. You need to figure out, go to the hospital and see if there's something they can do to help you.
Try, not so much that, we tried in no uncertain terms to tell him and his family that his job was on the line.
On the line, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I will be honest with everybody. I even took the time on a Sunday afternoon to reach out to him individually to try and talk to him, where we weren't on a call with state employees. I ended up, he said, I guess his son was driving him home. He said, can I call you back in a few minutes when I'm home? Because, it sounds like, I don't know if that's his decision or a family decision. They wanted, he wanted his wife to talk to me, which was probably better because she was going to be able to have a better understanding of what was going on. But I made it very clear to them where we were. It was when we were still in the process of the PIP, and I, pleaded with her, and I told her, I said, you guys need to come up with a plan. Come up with a plan how you guys are going to keep this facility. I said, then get a hold of Lynn, get a hold of Annette, and this was on a Sunday. Let them know on Monday, because I think we had a PIP meeting scheduled coming up or something, and that might have been before we gave them the extension, probably right before. I said, and the plan doesn't have to be perfect. It needs to be a plan. I said, if you need some help with it, call me back. I can, but it has to be something you're going to be willing to follow through. So, and that goes back to what Christy was saying. There's no support there, and it's just, I don't know what to call it other than a horrible, sad situation.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Again, I don't know all of the circumstances that initiated the PIP in the first place, but is there any kind of room in the rule to do one more PIP?
There is room in the rule to extend the PIP. It can be extended, it has not been voted on. So if whoever were to take over for Frank and I on this, the thought that it should be extended, they should vote to do so.
I mean, if there's just any, I'm just thinking if there's any way for us to do every possible thing that we can.
So,
And
Mr. Chair,
what if you can't find someone to fill in both of your places? Because someone's not going to want, like you just said, you guys don't want to let them go. What if everyone you ask feels the same way?
we'll be back here talking about this again.
Right.
Yes.
We'll have to figure it out. So,
The baby equivalent of a constitutional purpose.
so, and then
Groundhog
we need to
Day.
talk about the process then,
Yeah.
because so I think, Mr. Chair, we already extended it once, and there's also, from my perspective a little bit, there's a health and safety issue in that. He doesn't even know that he's at the rest area sometimes. He thinks, where does he think he's at?
At a laundromat.
Laundry, yeah.
He's been out walking around a little bit in the rest area. So this isn't, there's a lot going on with this too, on top of that.
It starts at Sam's Club.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it's
wow.
So, yeah, and so, and I hear you, and it's an awful situation. I feel like if anybody's got any other ideas, but I know Frank and Annette, Lynn and Sally, you know, you guys were meeting weekly. Lynn was going out there constantly. I mean, I'm not sure what else there is to do. They've tried, and, you know, it's a slippery slope, you know, Dave, you know, about tell him he's got to go to the hospital, but I know the lawyers over sitting here, like, you know, when you start talking about somebody's medical condition and assuming they have another disability, when they, like, that's a whole area that we can't, you know, you can't really, you know, but we had those conversations, like, how do we get it, you know, and so, yeah, it's nobody in here, and Derek said it, it's an awful situation. It's unfortunate, you know, he has family, but their head's not in a place either about the support. You know, it's tough. We were trying to get as many people that we could find to help, and it's just very unfortunate.
What the health and safety though, in what kind of way?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Sorry, so one of the issues is he's like wandering off out into the parking lot, like outside of the building. Like, we're concerned he could be hit by a car or wander onto the freeway
Right.
or,
You know, there's something coming in.
yeah.
Yeah, but I Mr. Chair, I kind of feel like that's outside of the scope of what we should be, or why we should be deciding on anything.
Not really.
No.
No.
Now, you can't have an operator working and wander and get struck by a car
I
and
think the
killed.
conversation's gone on quite
Thank
a
you.
while. I think we have a plan to appoint other people to the committee, and I honestly think that the conversation's gone quite a long time.
So, Mr. Chair, so the plan is to appoint 2 new people, and I think where we would come from is to make sure that they have all of our documentation that has been gathered, so then they can make an informed decision.
I will
Right.
figure that out, Christie, providing I can find people, providing I can find people who are willing to do it. And I will let you know. I'm not gonna sit here, I started to do it today, but that's not a good idea to do it in a public meeting. That's not fair.
You don't want to put people on.
I agree.
All right. The next one on here is UC operators having issue with par level payments. Dave, has that improved? Is that?
Well, we got one deposit of partial sales, and I thought Tanya had said that we were going to get another deposit on Thursday, but so far that hasn't happened.
Mr. Chair, I got an email today that it did deposit.
Today?
It at least went
Okay.
to
Dave.
UC, and it should be issued to you guys today. I know last time it hit accounts like Saturday.
Because they normally send us an email when they deposit. Yeah, I haven't gotten anything so far.
Mr. Chair, just to clarify, Tanya is the operator at UC?
No, Tanya is a business consultant for the Business Enterprise Program for the Cincinnati area.
Okay, what's your last name?
KOO, Koo.
Okay, Tanya Cooper, okay. Perfect.
Mr. Chair,
Thank you.
just for everybody, Sally had to go, so you're stuck with Christy and Amy and I.
Oh, that's right, we're done with that, okay.
Thanks, Greg, that's fine. I know she had an appointment.
Yeah.
Christie had told us that.
Okay.
Yesterday. All right, so I guess the UC stuff, maybe you'll post on Saturday.
I don't know.
It's par level.
And I don't think anybody else knows either.
Yeah.
Par level, oh, run the other direction.
Well, apparently when we installed all the readers, not only did they give UC the sales from our newly acquired beverage machine, they gave them all the sales from our snack machines as well. And Par Level holds back 2 weeks, so UC didn't get any of that money right away either.
Well, that's
And once you see, or once Par Level realized what they had done, once there was a cutoff for giving the money to UC, now there was another 2-week hold before they would give us any money. So we're supposedly going to start getting regular deposits on the 27th of this month. But again, this is all, it hasn't happened yet.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Dave, what is the percentage of your sales that this is subject to?
Before the new readers, it was getting less and less because very few of the readers were even online.
Yeah, they had no signal, yeah.
But now all of the readers, even the worst ones that were never online before, all of the readers are online now. And they take a wide variety of payment methods. So the percentage of card sales is going to go up and up.
Yeah, it just seems like there should be some kind of solution to this. These operators shouldn't be waiting weeks and weeks and weeks to get payments for.
Oh, we just
that's absurd.
The first
you can't run a
deposit
business that way.
The first deposit we got a week ago was for sales that like at the beginning of August.
Yeah, there's something should be done about that. Somebody cannot be expected to, come up with money for refurbishing stock that's sold when they're not getting the money back from it for some time, covering payroll, all the other expenses when it's weeks before getting their payment. I mean, is there nothing that months even. Is there nothing that can be done about that? I think many of us, if we weren't getting any money back and still had to go keep buying product,
it's unrealistic.
That's bad. Is there nothing you guys can do?
So, Madam, or Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Tanya's online, so she can fill in anything. She's been talking to these people, trying to get them to respond to. Sally reached out to the lady twice, has not heard back. We got this email that again, I think, Dave, another $1,600 is supposed to hit your bank. And so the payments, it's my understanding that the payments that are still going to UC is going to pay you guys for those as they're being dumped. And then on the 27th, this is all supposed to then be directly to the operators. Again, we don't hold the agreement with the Par Level. I kept on screaming, going, I'd like to even see an agreement. I need to see an agreement to even try to figure this out. So, and Par Level, I know Tanya's been trying to get a hold and figure this out. UC has been very helpful in trying to work this out. But again, I don't know.
Chair,
Just a second, go ahead.
I am on here.
All right.
So, Tanya, do you have anything? That's what I have. If she has anything to add, since she's been on the ground running.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I just got on the phone, so I don't know what the questions may have been. I came in at the end of Christie's discussion.
Just where we're at on them getting payments. That's where we're at.
Okay, so you probably have said this, they received the Bearcat sales for August, and the card sales up to the 25th. I talked to Brian yesterday. He sent out the report today requesting finance cut the checks from August 26th to like a week, 2nd or 3rd of September. I do have that email. I have not been able to go through it. I tried to read it on my phone, but it was a big spreadsheet. But as far as I understand, those should be sent to them today, if not Monday, and they seem to go in overnight. There should be one more payment after that. That should wrap this whole thing up from UC. And the operators and UC will be getting deposits on Tuesdays.
Okay.
So this coming Tuesday, they should, I'm thinking they should have the last of the cashless sales figures for UC to send it to finance for payment. And then the following Tuesday is when I was told the operators should start seeing the deposits hit their bank account.
Straight from Harlem.
Okay, okay. Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Okay, Tanya, that's what I had asked, and so it seems like it's not gonna be an ongoing issue, because I was concerned about our folks there in Cincinnati not getting paid for months after they had sales, so it sounds like that's gonna be cleared up once this nasty glitch is figured out. And they'll be being paid weekly, so that's good.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I am actually going through, I had sent out the emails to all my operators at UC stating that Car Level had to set up their accounts a little different, well, not their accounts, but like their online access. The whole problem was everything was set up under UC as the administration or the administrator, and that's how it's been in the past. And I have been pushing for each of the operators to have their own accounts. Because, you know, we were, when you go into the UC one, everything is listed there, including all the pops and everything. So I had pushed for getting the individual accounts, and I got pushback. Well, then finally when this came up, and I said, well, they need to be getting paid individually, independently from UC, and this is why, they came back and said, oh, well then, we had to set up, everybody's got their own administrative account. I'm like, oh, thank God. So right now, I sent an email to all the operators saying, contact this Stephen Lund. He can give you training. I'm actually going to start training with him on Tuesday, and I plan on meeting with him once a week until I have all my questions answered for how do we use this system. Because when it comes down to it, there's going to be 3 different logins where the operators can use. They still can use the UC one for like pre-kitting and looking at stock levels of each individual machine, but then their admin account will have that's where they would go to run the reports, like their financial reports. And then there's a third one, which is a NIAC system, where they can go in if they needed to refund something. I think that's where the individual transactions are listed. So, like I said, I
That's
sent
nice
that
and
information
streamlined.
to the operators to encourage them to get training with Stephen, and then I will be starting, because I also need to know, you know, how do we add sites, how do we add machines, if we need to change something, what the process is. But it wasn't just getting the operators set up with Tar Level and NIAC for their individual payments. I had to go through UC and get it set up with them with the Bearcat information to make sure that was correct. And then there was also like the refunds. There were refunds and sales. I found out, you know, that there were names on these lists that shouldn't be there anymore. Nothing was happening with them, but it was the fact that they were on there. I'm like, no, take them off. I don't want anything getting mixed up and sent to somebody by accident. So there was actually 3 different like financial points that had to be brought attention to make sure that everybody's accounts were set up correctly in each different system.
Complete total chaos.
Thanks, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
How awesome are consultants? And disclaimer, she's mine.
I'm not buying it.
Oh.
I want it.
I'm not buying him anything.
All right, we do have another agenda item on here. Christy had a quick call yesterday with Annette and I, and we have a situation up at the University of Toledo. That's the University of Toledo coffee kiosks. And I'll let Christy kind of, yeah, and you heard me correctly. I put it up because.
Yeah, a little sneak preview, right?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'll start off, but I'm going to also let legal chime in if I miss anything. So we have the coffee kiosk that we've been running since 2018-19 up there that is now being temporarily run because there's still some litigation surrounding the 2006-7. So you got that going on. UT has come to us and asked us for a suitability determination on a second coffee kiosk on the health science campus. This second kiosk is an adjacent building, but it's under the same roof. You do not have to leave the building to get to the second one. It's approximately, I think by their admission, like 580 feet. I will tell you that Sally and I went up there the other day for another reason to see the current coffee kiosk operation that just opened back up. And we walked it. It was less than 3 minutes. It was like 2 minutes and 40 seconds from one kiosk to the proposed kiosk. We've asked UT for numbers, and they can't really provide us numbers. You know, there's a lot going on. The one number that they have provided us is that they believe it's going to cost $500,000 to build out this second kiosk. Again, we purchased the build out, and we did build out the first kiosk a couple of years ago, and that cost us $130,000. I think it was over 130. It was over 100,000. I know for sure. Since then, we now know that we have, you know, money's tight, for one. Part two is that we have to get pre-approval, and that there's concern now on even building things and using match and federal and service charge on build-outs in general. But the other piece of it is competition. You know, I just feel that there's no way that this isn't going to take away from sales from the first kiosk. So we're going to have a meeting with UT in October. Am I leaving anything out, Rick?
Yeah, I could follow up on that.
Yeah.
A lot of what you said, Dimitri Johnson, I don't know if you guys met her last time. Some of you weren't here. She's our assistant legal who's done a lot of work with UT on the second kiosk topic. She's been in communication with their legal department, going back and forth, attempting to get information that we want to provide to you, as well as for our own edification. So she, like Christy said, you know, we are concerned regarding, you know, the viability of the first kiosk still if they're going to want to build this second kiosk. And so Demi asked for, you know, what is their belief of how the second kiosk is going to impact the sales of the first kiosk, what adjusted sales estimates can you provide. Now I'll read you what their response has been. We're also happy to provide you with the email with information that they confirmed. But their response to that question was that the university based the estimates off of the sales in the cafeteria operated by the university and the sales in the medical pavilion. The university has no idea whether it will impact the first kiosk sales. The hospital is unable to determine the preferences of the patients and visitors as it relates to the food, drink, cost selection at any one of its potential 3 sites, that being the main lobby, cafeteria, and medical pavilion. The cafeteria could draw from either of the 2 coffee kiosks due to the greater selection of food products and seating comfort. One coffee kiosk could draw from the other sites based on patient volumes in particular areas on a particular day. It would be impossible to project that one site would do better than another, as each of these three potential sites has food offerings and convenience based on location and ancillary services scheduled based on the day of the week. Okay, so I mean, there's a whole lot of words there, not a whole lot of information about what we requested. I'm not sure how they have no idea whether or not it would impact the first kiosk sales. I think a reasonable person would determine that with the proximity of those 2 kiosks being 535 feet apart is the distance that they gave us, that, would not reduce the sales of the first kiosk or harm it. But nevertheless, that's their response. Demi also asked, what the actual proximity of is between those two. Again, that's 535 feet. Walking distance through existing corridors. I don't know if Christy mentioned it. They literally share the same roof. They're in the same building. Also asked, what is the expected foot traffic in the building where the second kiosk would be housed? In comparison, what is the foot traffic in the building where the first kiosk is? The response was the pro forma I provided earlier includes all of the assumptions. So we have the attachments that kind of go to that. This foot traffic, I believe, is based on earlier estimates. To be frank with you, I don't know. Sorry, Mr. Chair. I don't want to take your position and be frank, but to be honest with you, I don't know off the top of my head what data that includes, but we do have that and we will provide that to you. Does the university foresee any differences in products being sold between the two kiosks? The university's response is we do not know what the new vendor will sell at the first kiosk. The second kiosk is proposed to sell coffee, bagels, croissants, and sandwiches. Christy, do you have an idea of what the first kiosk is providing at this time?
So the first kiosk, it's getting its legs.
Yeah.
It's getting its legs right now, and she's doing a great job. But right now, I think it's just drinks and croissants and not sandwiches.
Okay. So to Christy's point, if she's selling drinks and croissants, that's two out of the four things that they're suggesting that the second kiosk would be selling. So again, to Christy's concern, this looks like unfair competition. We also asked what, if any, storage is available at the proposed second kiosk. Their response, the university has identified approximately 200 square feet of office space in the basement of Dowling Hall that I believe our business consultant has visited in the past. We also asked, please provide any quotes, proposals, and estimates of the costs for the new construction of the second kiosk. The response is, please see the attached email to Lynette Huswick, which I hope answers this question. Toward the bottom of the page, bottom of the exchange, it notes that we anticipated to cost approximately $500,000. The $500,000 is a relatively solid estimate based on the cost of the kiosk itself. The equipment within the kiosk, required changes to the flooring around the kiosk, along with required electrical and plumbing upgrades needed to operationalize that service. Numbers could change slightly and could very well increase as supply and labor costs continue to rise. Then ask, provide any agreements that the university has with third parties in relation to the second kiosk. The response is there are none. And lastly, provide any other pertinent information related to the construction and operation of the second kiosk. The response is we do not believe there is any other pertinent information. So that's yeah.
I'm going to ask this, and I don't know if you have an opinion, for a chance one way or the other, but it sounds to me like these people are trying to play a little game and they're angling to get, the second coffee kiosk in there, and they want us to, we do have a problem there, because, and Annette and I and Christy went through this, and we didn't have much time yet to get on the phone, and it was just a quick phone call, but I was like, what are they doing? This doesn't, well, at first I said it didn't make sense, but I got to thinking about it, like, yeah, I think they're trying to play a little game here. They're trying to get somebody in there other than us. They want us to probably try and just go, well, it's not suitable, and then they're going to bring in somebody from the private sector. But my question then becomes, do we still have priority there? Because it is a state university, correct?
Yes, so, Mr. Chair, number one, you kind of hit it right on the nose. So we had gotten indication that once the original coffee kiosk got opened up, that they were like, okay, we're good. And then shortly thereafter, like, yeah, no, just kidding. We still want a second coffee kiosk. And some of it is, yes, you're right. They're trying to back us into a corner with costs that they've come up with $500,000, but they can't actually provide us the real numbers to come up with that estimate. You know, they know that that's a huge burden financially, that we also don't feel like we should be sharing in most of those costs. If they feel like they want it, then they need to build it, and we could bring the equipment in. But they, from gathering the conversations and hearing, they're trying to get a kiosk that they have control over, that's not run by us. And so, yes, and you hit it right on the head that they're pushing us to make a suitability decision. So we have a call set up early October. You know, Annette, I think I would like for you to be on that call as well, because we're gonna have to get down to business with them on this and kind of game plan a little bit about what our positions are on a couple things and what we want our talking points to be with them. But I think it's important that you're involved in that discussion, because this is getting into an ugly area, and it's not. I don't know how it's not sustainable to put the same copycat business 500 feet from each other.
No.
It's the same customer base. It's not like it's on the other side of the campus. It's not, you know, across the street. They're literally, you know, it'd be like putting one on the other side of this building right here, on the same floor. So.
Mr. Chair.
And I guess that's where my question comes from a legal standpoint. Let's take the kiosk out of the way and just stick with what we know vending. In general, because it's pertinent, say John's building, the education building there, state property. Now, I know there's a little slight difference in universities because of the joint determination. But say they came and said, we want vending machines in every office, on every floor in this building. And we said, that's ridiculous. We don't want to do that. The cost, it's not effective. It's not good for our business that's there. We want that, and we waived it. Or would they be allowed then, we told them no, are they allowed then to go and put someone else to come into a state property and put another bunch of vending machines in there? I don't think they are.
Well,
So a university, it's the same, if we, does that just open them for them to be allowed to do it? I don't think it does. I mean.
my thought is, even if we didn't waive it, what if we said, we can't put them on every floor, we're gonna put them, you know, every, I don't know, 3 floors or 4 floors or whatever, you know. Or like here, they're centrally located on.
Yeah, my point is, if a grantor asks for something unreasonable, which I think a good argument can be made, this is unreasonable because of the proximity of the other facility, the cost involved. They're asking for something unreasonable for us to provide. And we tell them, no, I don't know that just opens the door for them to go and be able to put somebody else in there. I think we've determined the site is not suitable. If we go that route, we say it's not a suitable site, then it's not a suitable site for anything. Derek kind of hit on it earlier when he said the only way it's determined for site suitability at a university is that they don't have any vending. So if we say it's not suitable for anybody at that second kiosk.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes.
Good point in that. And I think this is where unfair competition comes into it. So even if we were to declare it suitable and put our own vendor in there, right? There's still the issue of, you know, the first kiosk sales presumably are going to be decreased because of the proximity, because of the unfair competition. So there are potential options that we are thinking about, that we have rolling around in our mind too. I don't know if Greg, you want to discuss.
So I think, going back to the first question or point Annette made, I think where Toledo's looking at it though is, we're saying, when they say suitability, Toledo's saying, we're saying it's not suitable for us.
Right.
And Toledo's gonna say, but that's fine, it's suitable, they feel it's suitable for them. And I think that's where they're wanting to pick the fight at a little bit. and, you know, I'm looking at 3 lawyers, and I've been around lawyers enough, they can make an argument over, you know, I mean, there's probably some gray area enough to make an argument. So there's that, there's the competition, you know, so we've been kicking around like, okay, how do we push back on them? And some of this is what I was talking about, Annette, we could talk about as a group, but, you know, do we say, okay, you know what, we like where you want that second coffee kiosk. We'll take the second coffee kiosk, we'll put a Starbucks machine where the other coffee kiosk is, right by that micro market, so there's not competition, but there's coffee available. So I think there's some things we can push back on and say, oh, you're saying you need coffee, you know, we don't have enough numbers. I don't know, I'm just saying no is not gonna, UT's not gonna go, all right, thanks for,
No,
you know, we're good. So I feel like I wanna have some things to throw back on them to say, oh, no, we can help. Here's what we can do to do it. So I think that's kind of why we wanted to talk to you guys and get some feedback and some thoughts on maybe some things we can do.
Yeah, and that, just to piggyback off that, so if the issue is 2 kiosks being within 535 feet of each other, unfair competition, everything like that, arguably the second kiosk, if that thing is built out, because we, you know, just black and white say second kiosk is not suitable because of unfair competition. They say, you know what, we're going to build it anyway. We're going to throw caution to the wind, go ahead and build it. Then arguably they're impinging on our priority on our first kiosk. So there's that argument too. But you know, we're bringing this to you guys. It's fresh, you know, but that's why we're bringing it to you now. I think we'll probably find out hopefully more information. Who knows? On October 3rd, and that would love for you to be part of that.
Okay.
And I will try and be on that call as well.
And
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Dick.
I guess I am going to be pedantic today. I mean, I have a couple of issues with what's being said, and I like what Greg said, by the way, and that, when I first asked for the floor, I was going to talk about, you can't just say no to him. And the other thing is that suitability doesn't inure to the coffee kiosk, it inures to the property. Our priority is the property. So they're not asking us to establish suitability. They're saying, is this property suitable? And we already have established that that property is suitable. It's ours. Yeah, everybody agreed that property is suitable for us. And our decision was to put a coffee kiosk in. Now, Greg's right. If they're going to play games with this, we may want to revisit what's appropriate for the property. And in a hospital setting, I would imagine that the hospital is not too far off of, you do need, even though it's only 500 feet apart, you've got patients with their IV bags, and, you know, all those kinds of things, and doctors who don't have time to waste going all the way across the big building, and, you know, they can make all those kinds of arguments. We need to look at that. And the other nitpicky thing I have is the unfair competition. There's no such thing as us unfairly competing with one another. I mean, if we have priority on a property, it's up to us to determine how many operators should take the responsibility of the business that's available there. And that's where that there isn't anything in the law that says one operator can't compete against another and everything. It's up to us as a program to determine, you know, how that should happen. We have multiple people in the same buildings or same properties all the time, and we can avoid, so that, I don't think that's as big a concern. But definitely don't just say no to them, and look at this more as an opportunity for growth. This isn't an obstacle. This is, you know, call their bluff. Yeah, we'll take some more business.
Yeah.
You know, if there really is more opportunity, there might be people 500 feet away that aren't coming to the first coffee kiosk that you don't know about. Figure this stuff out. Don't go off half-cocked with any of this stuff.
Yeah, but Derek, I don't honestly believe we want 2 operators competing with 2 counter operations.
Yeah, not necessarily. No, you're right. We might not, but maybe there's an opportunity, like Greg said, we'll move the location to the better of the 2 if we determine that that's, you know, we already have the priority for the property. Don't forget that. The entire property is ours. We have the priority. But, you know, maybe we have a satellite, not a kiosk, but just a coffee shop or something. But don't, and which could increase the business for, and maybe that just remains as the one operator. And I'm assuming the micro market is a separate operator, isn't it?
It is.
And it's in the
And
same building,
It's
correct?
right there.
Okay,
So, yeah, there's.
so you can spread all this stuff out. I mean, play all this to our advantage.
Yep.
Absolutely play all of this to our advantage. They might have hit on something accidentally that benefits us. We might be able to, I mean, we don't necessarily have to increase the number of operators, but this certainly, on statute, anything is an opportunity to increase our sales for the operators that exist there, if nothing else.
Well, Mr. Chair, I don't think, and because we talked about this, again, I don't think that having 2 coffee kiosks, regardless of who runs it, is profitable.
And probably not.
Right.
But-
And even having-
But say that with facts and figures.
Right, even one operator running both of them, the number of staff it would take, I just don't think that is sustainable.
Yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely. And I'm not suggesting I know the answers to these questions. I'm only suggesting there's a lot more questions than you've asked. There's a lot of questions that need to be answered before you answer them. And I'm not sure that it is ever a good idea to ask them what they think. I mean, for us to ask them what they think is viable or what the outcome of this versus that would be and everything. Of course they're going to be smart asses and say, because they don't know. We know. We're the experts. We should figure that out. They can only give us data. They can't answer the question.
That's the problem. We need data
They're not
for
even
them.
giving, well, I mean, they're kind of obligated to give you data like numbers of people that get, and they know all those things, and if they're not giving you that, I'm sure there's ways to get it from them. But, it's certainly not appropriate to ask them, do you think that this kiosk would impact the other kiosks? They're not experts in those matters. They don't know the answer to that.
We know the answer to that.
We know the answer to that, based on the data that they should be providing, but they don't know the actual answer to the question. They only can provide the data. So don't even get in those silly conversations with them, because all that does is document things that might not want documented if there ever is litigation, which I think there already is, and there's going to be more.
So we will get you guys the invites.
What time is that meeting, the 3rd? You know?
Give me a minute, I could find it.
You already have a bunch of meetings that day.
I have at least one. But that one can be moved. That's a work group.
Mr. Chair, it's at 2 p.m.
Yeah, we're gonna, okay.
That's October 3rd?
Correct.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, to Madam Vice Chair, I think our meeting was at 1.
Yeah, so
So-
we can probably do it.
Yeah, we do. Like, we can definitely make that, we were off that meeting, I think, in 40 minutes.
Yeah, we're good. Okay.
What time is it? 2 o'clock or 1?
The 1 o'clock, the efficiency work group, 2
Oh,
o'clock is
okay.
So if we're efficient, we can be done by 2.
Yeah, we're the efficiency work group. We'll make it done. Yeah.
Make it efficient.
Yes. Okay, anything else there?
Anything else for the agenda? All right. Not hearing anything. I need a motion
I
and a
move
second.
to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Yeah,
John?
John?
Yes.
of course.
All right.
Of course.
We are adjourned.
Okay.